The work that the Road Home does in helping families get back on their feet is truly important to our community, no matter where you sit on the spectrum politically, no matter where you are in your socioeconomic status. The Road Home is absolutely doing work that all of us should support. So let's get ready. Let's be giving today. Let's be generous today. 801-819-7300. You can call in to donate. theroadhome.org. If maybe you just want to pull out the phone, Venmo or PayPal, they're at The Road Home. Send in your donations. Bring in your donations. Maybe you're low on cash this year, but you have extra goods. They need that too. Underwear, apparently the top 10 needs right now. Underwear, especially men's sizes in the upper end of the size, like large plus. Bottles, sippy cups, towels, coats of all sizes, boots of all sizes, hats and gloves of all sizes. Diapers in the 5 and 6 range. Lotion, shampoo, conditioner, body wash. I mean, look around your house. Think of all of the things that just go into your daily life and making sure that you're presentable, that you're clean. Imagine if you were trying to get back on your feet. Maybe you had a job interview. You need to drop the kids off at school. You want them to not know how stressful it is that you and your family are in this rough position right now. Let's help these families out. Let's help the Road Home out by donating today. The goods, you can bring them down here to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale. Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers are through today going to take your coat donations, your glove donations, hats, boots, etc. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., the Radiothon, the Mediathon is going to be happening down here at the headquarters in Midvale. Come see us. And you know what? I don't even need you to say hi to me. I don't even need you to say OC sent you. I just need you to support this great cause. The Road Home, man, I'm really pumped to be part of it today. Really, really excited. And I got to tell you, I was really excited driving down here today because our own Scott Mitchell on the Down and Dirty, he got the first interview with Kyle Whittingham post, I don't want to say retirement announcement, but post-separation announcement. So we're going to play that again for you today on the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chase is going to join us at 11:30. He's going to hang out from 11:30 to noon down here at the Road Home. At noon, we're going to replay the Kyle Whittingham conversation. Scott did a masterful job in asking all the questions that we have for Kyle Whittingham. And look, it was at the very end, both of them, it seemed like, got a little bit emotional. The end of an era is impossible to process in the 3, 4, 5 days that we've had to process it when we're talking about 21 years of history, 21 years of recruiting classes, 21 years of wins, of losses, of season ticket situations. I mean, it's just, it's woven into the fabric of our community, and it has changed the landscape of our sports community here in the state of Utah, I think, very drastically and probably irreversibly, because we're now a football state, a college football state, hopefully someday an NFL football state, as unlikely as that feels. Man, really good interview. We're going to play it for you. Scott Mitchell and Kyle Whittingham. That'll come up at noon right here on the Sean O'Connell Show, which is brought to you today and every single day by our friends over at Big Willie's on 1717 South Main. So your perfect plan today is you swing on down here to the Road Home, and then as you're driving back up north, driving to downtown, driving to your workplace in Sugar House, or driving up to Bountiful or wherever it is, you stop off at 1717 South Main. You have a little bit of lunch. You tell them OC sent you, and you're like, hey, I just, on the way here, I donated at the Road Home Mediathon in Midvale at 529 West 9th Ave. James Peterson is back in our Broadway studios producing today, and we'll be hearing from him periodically throughout the show. Man, a lot to get into once again on the sports front. I feel so positive, and I feel so happy, and I feel so festive. Santa Claus is here at the Mediathon. A beautiful decoration here in our broadcast tent. I got nutcrackers. I've got cutouts. I've got hot chocolate cookies. We've got Christmas trees with lights on them, ornaments hanging from the ceiling itself. So I'm feeling so positive and happy and enthusiastic about being here. And I don't want to be raining on anyone's parade, and I don't want to be the guy that brings up the negative stuff. But, yeah, you know, at Christmas, sometimes you need a Grinch. If you've ever been wondering how far is too far on the betting, the sports betting markets, and maybe some of you felt like we jumped this shark years ago as it became more ubiquitous and legalized nationally, and a bunch of different states now allow it, and there's workarounds with these predictive future markets to where it's not illegal state by state. Well, Kalshi, obviously, very fascinating business story, by the way. But they pushed us past where this is just entertainment. They pushed us past where this is just an accessory or some kind of boost to your sports fandom. Kalshi, now they're not officially live, these markets, these predictive markets yet, but they are certifying, they are ratifying predictive markets on who is going to enter the transfer portal in college football. And when asked about it, they said they're planning on doing it in college basketball as well. If you've been a sports fan that maybe dabbles a little bit, you know, you have your March Madness pool at the office that you jump into and you throw a few dollars down on that. Maybe you and your old high school buddies are in a group chat together, and every now and again, you know, 50 or 100 here or there being bet on a game. Maybe you're someone who's a little bit more married to it, dedicated to the craft. You got a bookie and you're somebody that's been driving to Wendover or whatever for years. Wherever you are on that spectrum, there's probably a chance that you were sitting around at some point and saying, how far is too far? Like, we make fun of our guy Jeff Schwartz, who joins us every single week here on the Sean O'Connell Show, because he'll throw something down on college softball. He'll spend time in the WNBA markets. He's, you know, taking futures on, like, World Cup games, and he's not a big soccer fan. Like, okay, so he's kind of married to it. He loves the betting. He loves the wagering. Now, I also know for a fact that that's a man who's been very successful with his NFL salaries, and he plays, like, very, very, very below his means. He's never putting himself into trouble. He's not even really trying to make money off of it. It's just kind of like, hey, this is how I can enjoy these things a little bit more. It's just, you know, a little walk around, a little lunch, a little Starbucks cash type situation. It's responsible betting, if you want to call it that. And there's people all over the place that do it that way. There's people that obviously cripple themselves financially through it, and that's definitely too far. But I imagine any one of us who's ever either placed a wager or thought about placing a wager has asked the question at some point of how far is too far, how much is too much, how common is too common. And the answer, we find it today. If you can now place a bet or a predictive wager or whatever you want the right terminology to be, if you can now put a little bit of skin in the game on which 19-year-old is going to decide that he doesn't want to be at the University of Utah anymore, or he played above his recruitment level at Utah State, or he's a guy that's been at USC and is now disgruntled, and you think that that individual is going to be looking for greener pastures, that's too much. That's too far. We have now jumped the shark on this thing to where it is just pathological. It is not for entertainment purposes. It is far too nefarious, and there are too many loopholes that for it to be considered less than a threat to the fabric of college sports as we know them. The predictive markets, again, not live yet, and I think Kalshi is the company. They're saying, hey, you know, we do this all the time. We certify markets all the time, and then we never actually list them. So maybe we're just in an exploratory phase here, all right? We're doing the ground-penetrating radar to see if there's oil down there before we drill. All right. Maybe I'm overreacting because it's not live markets yet. But there's a reason this is a national headline. There's a reason that every athletic department, every conference, the NCAA itself is looking at this and saying, guys, okay, come on. How much is too much? This is too much. Because the threshold for when something cashes or doesn't is merely an announcement on your social media that you intend to enter the transfer portal. You know how easy it is to do that? Do you know how simple it is for an agent, a high school coach, an athlete's uncle, to be like, hey, I just put $10 on you entering the transfer portal. Go ahead and tweet out that you're entering the transfer portal. You intend to enter the transfer portal, and that thing cashes for me. I know that there have been folks, and I try not to be these folks, even though my mind does go these places, that are just like, as soon as you allow betting of any kind on sports, then suddenly, this low-talking Italian mobster is going to show up at somebody's house and he's going to give them so much money to throw the game. Like, there's all of these imaginary scenarios that we throw into things when we talk about sports betting that, for the most part, don't come into play. Now, they also do come into play, as we've seen with some of the NBA stories, as we've seen with past referees getting into trouble, as we've seen with certain athletes finding themselves suspended for whatever reason. Most of the time, when our imaginations run wild and get a little Hollywood on the downside of these things, it's exactly that. It's an overreaction, but not always. And in something like this that is just so easy to manipulate, it's beyond the pale that anyone would want to explore this as a possibility, that anyone would want to participate in this, because it's just going to be too big of a mess, and it's going to contribute to more of the mess. I mean, you hear all the horror stories of kids and coaches that are like, oh, you should have gone for it there. I had the over, or you should have. I can't believe you stepped out of bounds on this play. You just lost me $100 and the abuse that's happening. Now we're talking about a 2-week period in January where people can just be like, hey, dude, I literally, all you have to do is announce your intention to enter the transfer portal or put your name in the transfer portal, and I'm going to make however much. It's too personal. It's too easy to touch. It's too simple to get your grubby little fingers into. And I've been kind of like, hey, man, to each their own, whatever works. If you want to bet on sports, bet on sports. If you don't want to bet on sports, don't bet on sports. Be responsible about it. I've been pretty liberal with my whole opinion on whether or not we should allow this. I think that the regulation that comes with legalization actually is good in a lot of cases, because these red flags get raised by regulatory bodies. But who's going to raise the red flags on this? I mean, how is this even going to be enforceable? If Kalshi lets these markets go live, and there is plus 200 odds on Bird Ficklin jumping into the transfer portal, how many people would it take close to Bird or with some kind of interest in Bird's life that decide they're going to bet on this for him to be like, all right, I'll do you that favor. I'll make an announcement that I'm entering the transfer portal. Now, coaches have to adjust, fan bases have to adjust, athletic departments have to adjust, leverage gets swung around all crazy, pendulums are swinging. The idea with sports betting or predictive markets or whatever terminology you want to use is that it is an accessory to the entertainment that does not corrupt the entertainment itself. This is an invitation for corruption. This is an invitation for manipulation. This is a flashing sign that's like, you want to find a way into college sports that also makes you some money? Here you are. I hate it. It's too much. It's too far. I don't think the NCAA or the College Sports Commission or the Big 12 Conference or the University of Utah, I don't think anybody has the power to stop it. I think it's everything that I've read so far, it's purely at the discretion of whether or not this company wants to muddy the waters, whether they want to be associated with this. And it is one of the fastest growing companies in the world right now. It is a place, I think we found, she's the founder is the youngest, one of the co-founders I should say, is the youngest self-made billionaire female. She surpassed Taylor Swift, if I'm not mistaken, all because she realized that there's a loophole with predictive markets. It's not betting. You're doing predictive yes-no outcomes. Hey, will Bird Ficklin, will Devin Dampier, will so-and-so enter the transfer portal? You want to put $10 on it? Here you go. Just sign up for the app. It's a mess. You can't let it happen. But they're dabbling. They're playing with it. James, are you listening to my rant? How do you feel about this?
Oh, I'm listening. Don't you worry. No, I think I'm a lot more anti-betting than a lot of people are. Just full disclosure there. But this, even with that, even if I was more open to it, like you are and others are, I totally agree with you. This is too far. This is way too easy to manipulate. This is way too easy to corrupt. There needs to be, before they get into this, if they ever should get into the transfer portal futures predictions market, right, that they're talking about, there needs to be more than just, hey, when a social media post comes out that says a player is entering the transfer portal, that's official. Like, it needs to be a lot more official than that in order to, like, that's a needed safeguard for this. But even then, I'm not sure that this is something that should be happening. The other thing about Kalshi, however you say it, OC, we've talked about this before. This is not sports betting, but it is sports betting. Like, it's fishy even without this. So I don't know. I'm very against this specific thing, and I'm not sure how to feel about Kalshi.
Well, look, Kalshi is in, or Kalshi. Somebody text me, 877-353-0700. Tell me how you're actually supposed to say this. But the contracts that they are willing to explore, just kind of like the broadest brush you can find, sweep it across whatever. It's pricing, it is politics, it's everything. And now that it's potentially staining what's going on in an already very, very complicated world of college sports, now I'm paying attention. Now I'm looking at it going like, hold on a second. This one is just too easy to manipulate. Now, the predictive markets that allow you to, and there's, we obviously are never going to legalize sports gambling in the state of Utah. Or we will be the last state in the union to let this happen. For obvious reasons, don't need to get into it, but we are the most sort of like anti-vice state in the nation. Okay, so gambling is not going to be accepted here anytime soon. But there are the loopholes, right? You can play these kind of like daily fantasy league and apps as long as it's a skill-based competition, and these predicted markets do the same thing. And they're not the first one. I mean, when my wife came to me in like August and was just like, "Hey, who's going to win this? Who's going to win this NFL game?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why are you asking me that?" I mean, my wife's a sports fan, but not like that. Like, why do you care about Dolphins Patriots in the preseason? What are you talking about here? She's like, "Well, Robinhood is offering like you can do you can invest in a prediction on Robinhood." And I was like, what? So again, these are loophole things. And I'm looking at it going, hold on a second. That's a way that you can kind of like backdoor into this conversation or out of this conversation, whichever way you want to phrase that. And I'm thinking, all right, what else is going to be involved here? Well, the outcomes of individual stat lines. We talk about those all the time. There's companies on every sports talk station in the nation that advertise through that. If you can't do the DraftKings and the FanDuel and the actual betting, you can do the stat line stuff. Wonderful, great, fantastic. And now, again, that question has to be asked, well, how far is too far? We saw this with Kalani Sitake's name being associated with Penn State. That didn't just appear in news headlines. That appeared on futures wagering sheets in sports books and in predictive markets. Hey, the odds-on favorite right now to become the next Penn State head coach is Kalani Sitake. And people were behaving accordingly, wagering accordingly, predicting with their wallets accordingly. You know how nuts that is? And now we're in a situation where it is filtered all the way down to a problem that is already very difficult to navigate in college sports. How to properly manage the transfer portal. Whether or not to bother trying to enforce tampering or anti-tampering rules. Who is going to be the adult in the room, the responsible party, raise their hand and say, look, the transfer portal window opens January 2nd. If you're calling guys or you're calling their high school coaches or you're calling their agents or you're calling their dads on December 18th, that's going to be an infraction. Nobody's doing this yet. Now you add into that the complication of not only are they worried about the NIL money, not only are they worried about, am I going to get playing time here? Am I going to get playing time there? I guess some of them probably still worry about, are my credits going to transfer? Probably a lot of Power 4 players don't worry about that too much. But now there's this layer added into it. What does it say next to mine? What's the number? How much action is coming in on the idea that Carson Beck is going to enter the transfer portal? How much action is coming? I mean, if you're Dylan Raiola, you're like, wait a second, I announced too early. I told everyone too early. Now everyone knows what's going to happen here. I didn't let any kind of like groundswell of money build up around my decision. The problem we have right now in college sports and around college sports is not that there are no adults in the room. It's that the adults in the room only care about one thing. And I am no better than anyone else. I care about money way too much. I'm a greedy Scrooge McDuck, the same way that a lot of people are. But that's the problem we have right now in college athletics. It's not a lack of leadership. It's that leadership only cares about one thing and is allowing the almighty dollar to dictate the decisions or lack of decisions on virtually every single level. And just like absolute power corrupts absolutely, when you get to a certain dollar amount, when you get to a certain value, financial value on something, you can stamp it, forge it, you can carve it in stone, that once you get past that certain dollar amount, it is going to be a mess. It is going to create a mess. I don't know exactly what that dollar amount is, but I promise you these predictive markets on the transfer portal, at least for some players, are going to touch that dollar amount. And that's where the corruption is going to come in. That's where the problem is going to exist. If your buddy says, hey, you can make me $100 by putting your name into the transfer portal, that's not going to affect your decision. But what happens when someone comes and says, hey, I put $10,000 through whatever channels on the idea that you're going to end up in the transfer portal? How about I give you half of that? How about I give your mom half of that? Hey, I got $100,000 coming in on this. How can it not be a problem? How can it not? especially if the only thing you have to do to trigger a payout is say Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, MySpace. This could be the thing that brings MySpace back, by the way. Be the number one spot for Kalshi payout announcements.
And OC, like, don't you think, I mean, one of the safeguards for this, if there is, and I don't know, it probably doesn't fix anything if this does end up going to market. But wouldn't it be like you have to, the way that we know that this is real, that this is official, is you have to actually put your name in the portal. But then they could just put their name in and then take it out, right? So maybe that's still way too manipulative.
Thank you, James, for bringing that up. I should have brought that up early. Because absolutely, yes. If all you have to do is submit your paperwork, you could literally go to your coach, and you could say, hey, don't be alarmed. I'm submitting my name into the transfer portal. I have no intention to actually transfer. I'm just doing this because there's a little bit of action on my name.
But, of course, they're probably not going to do that, go that far with it. They probably would say, hey, I'm exploring my options, but it doesn't mean I'm leaving, right? But then maybe that's the safeguard. Like, you put it in because there's a lot of coaches still that are like, hey, you put your name in the portal, you're gone. I don't care if you want to come back. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
There are coaches who feel that way, but you almost can't afford to feel that way as a coach anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're a coach who wants to take a hard line and you want to stand on principle, those principles are eroding so fast that there's nothing left to stand on very, very soon, right? And by the way, it's worse at the highest level of the sport than it is. It's actually better if you're a principled coach right now, if you're someone who's about, like, come here for character development, come here for even skill development, come here to get an education. If you're one of those types of coaches, you don't want a Power 4 job right now. You want to be at, like, Utah State. Bronco Mendenhall is in the perfect spot. He wants no part of this type of garbage, right? But he does want to help young men create better versions of themselves, and he does want to help families get a little bit of a leg up. And, yeah, he will deploy what meager funds are available at a place like Utah State in order to help a Bryson Barnes-type character. But he doesn't want to be involved in this mess. So the highest level is, unfortunately, the most influenced and most corruptible level when it comes to this type of garbage. James, if there is a safeguard or protection that you can put in, I suppose if we're trying to find a workaround, a solution to actually making this make sense, which I don't want to make it make sense. I want it to stop. I want people to finally put the brakes on it. As futile as that effort is, and as much as I realize, even as I say that, I'm just being a get-off-my-lawn old man about it. If there's anything you could do, you could say it doesn't count, the transfer portal doesn't count until you actually transfer to the new school. Then it'll cash.
Yeah, I suppose that's it, because then you have to be acting with true intent, right? And so that probably would stop the majority of bad actors in this, or at least the players themselves and their agents being bad actors in this. The people betting and wanting to pull strings. There's certainly plenty of those bad actors that can influence some of these players and their representatives. But I would think that the player actually having true intent to transfer would be a way to avoid a lot of the bad faith stuff with this, the manipulation that could happen with this.
It actually, it makes a lot more sense if you're doing a transfer portal predictive market. The transfer itself should be the thing that cashes.
Yeah, but
an actual transfer.
But then, the language is, will they enter the transfer portal, right?
I know.
It's not, will they transfer? So anyway, I don't know.
So, yeah.
It's wild.
So change the language. If you're going to do this, right?
Will they transfer?
If you're working for this predictive markets company, if you're working for Kalshi or any of the myriad copycats that are going to follow them, by the way, because there's going to be dozens. Like, everyone's putting these things out there. Change the language. at least, do us this favor, you disgusting money-grubbing lunatics. Do us at least this favor so you don't further compromise the integrity of sports that are already losing their integrity so rapidly. Just say, we are predicting whether or not they actually do transfer. Not do they intend to transfer or do they enter the transfer portal. Will they transfer? They put in the paperwork. They make the move. They practice at the new school. If you have to do it, and please don't feel like you have to do it, but if you have to do it, at least make it something like that to where it really makes sense, that what you think you're predicting is what you're actually predicting.
And I'm with you. I don't want them to figure this out, but if we're gonna set aside any naivete that thinks, hey, they're gonna reel this back in and they're not gonna figure out how to make this happen, like you got to put some safeguards like that, make it way more official than, hey, they just put it on social media that they intend to enter the transfer.
I mean, look, if you're doing a predictive market on, like, how many points is Gordy Chiesa going to score today? It's not like Gordy Chiesa could just put on his Twitter, I intend to score 30 points today, and then it's just like, oh, he hit the over on 30. I mean, intent doesn't mean a dang thing. Why we can't cash out based on intent. If you were cashing based on intent, then, man, I'm putting money on whichever team has the best or the worst odds to win a national championship, the plus 100,000. I'm putting money on them, and then I just need their coach to say, hey, we intend to win a national championship this year. Please, adults in the room, act like adults in the room. All right, we got to take a break. We're down here at the Road Home Mediathon. Swing on by with your donations. Swing on by with your goods, your coats, your hats, your shoes, your gloves, or if you just want to throw in a little bit of cash for the cause, 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or on Venmo or PayPal at The Road Home. Gordy Chiesa is going to sit down with us. He's here in person. We got him for at least half an hour on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Now is the time to support the Road Home, to give what you can. 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or at Road Home on Venmo and PayPal. Any donations you'd like to give. You can also come down here to 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale at the Crosby Family Resource Center. They need underwear. They need shower supplies. They need towels, boots, hats, gloves. Anything that you have in your home that you're like, yeah, that's part of my daily life. I need that. Families might need that. I promise you they'd be appreciative of the donation. So bring it on down here during the Road Home Mediathon. And let's hit some new goals. Let's hit some new targets this year. All right? Those of us who have been blessed and fortunate and don't have to worry about where the next meal is coming from or how we're going to put a roof over our kids' head, let's help out the Road Home, because they feel that need for plenty of families here in our community and get them back on their feet. We're lucky enough to have Gordy Chiesa here in person with us. Hi, Gordy.
Sean, how's it going?
Doing all right. Always love being part of this event. I know you do too.
Very much.
We didn't have a whole lot of time on Tuesday, and I was remiss in failing to ask you this question. I want to start here. We're going to play at right around noon. We're going to play the Kyle Whittingham interview that he did this morning with Scott Mitchell. First interview he's done post-announcement that he stepped away from his role of head coach at the University of Utah. But as I was reacting to the news that Kyle Whittingham was done, trying to organize my thoughts there, one of the things that really stuck out to me was that he did it, at least to our knowledge, he did it the right way for 21 years, right? He developed a program that the community could be proud of. Most of the athletes that went through there, even guys who had troubles, you got to walk away kind of, chin up, head held high, shoulders back, proud of the work you had put in, proud of the improvement you had made, proud of hopefully the grades you got, things like that. And he did that also while winning. Gordy, you've been part of the coaching world for so long. How difficult is it to not only win, but to win the right way when we're talking about elite-level competition like what Utah football's been facing these last 2 decades?
Yes, it's a rarity to win the right way. Add to that, longevity. So Kyle Whittingham had the ability to adjust with the times, still keep his core principles of what he believed in as far as discipline. Kyle's a classic example of a coach that I call it upbeat discipline, where there was high standards in the program, and that he was very demanding without being demeaning. And Sean, that's a sign of a longevity coach, that you've got to be able to get the guys to perform at a high level, and that's what he did. And the ability to adapt to what situation it was really tremendous. And all the Utah fans should be very grateful of what he did for the program and for the whole state. He made a national power, Sean. National.
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky to be able to say that, because it's funny. If you're, between the age of, I guess what now, if you're in your 20s or younger than that, even if you're in your 30s, when you really start to kind of round into your sports fandom, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, you kind of always known Utah as a relevant program. And even when they had down years, you got to feel the disappointment of being like, oh, this is a down year. So you almost just assume it always was like that. And it wasn't always like that. I mean, when I was young, when we first moved to Utah in 1992, Utah football was like just pulling itself out of this like 3-decade slump against a rival, and not really. It's pretty crazy that now, Joel Klatt said it, death taxes in Utah football. It's too easy to assume, or too easy to forget the work that goes into making that a reality.
And that's the recruiting of it. So the ability to recruit, the ability to coach the guys up, and also have a strong discipline, that's what equals really winning. And that's what Kyle did for 21 years. Before that, assistant coach. And we all should be grateful, and we're proud of what he accomplished here. And now it's the next journey for him. He retired on his own terms. And Sean, a lot of times people, unfortunately, especially in the coaching profession, they retire on other people's terms, and it becomes very testy. This is the opposite. He went out on his terms, and that's forever. He'll be grateful for it.
All right, let's talk a little NBA basketball. This Utah Jazz team continues to be what we say every time we sit down. A lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be, a lot more competitive than I thought it was going to be. We got the promise when Austin Ainge was hired that hey, we're not going to tank. We're not going to manipulate minutes. We're going to be competing. And we thought, all right, well, what they'll do is they'll kind of strip this roster down, and they just won't have the players to win basketball games. It has not worked out that way, though. These young guys have kind of developed, and they've turned into people that can help you win basketball games. So now you might have to start making decisions about resting people and healthy scratches and things like that. Are they going to have to be more careful, Gordy, about managing lineups in order to achieve the desired season outcome?
No, the answer is no. They're going to try to win because if you're a player on the Jazz team, you want to win. And if you're a coaching staff member, yes, you do. And that the Jazz have done a good job with their roster as far as balancing drafting people. So, Sean, here's how the Jazz roster was built so far. Walker Kessler in 2022, the 22nd pick of the draft. Tyler Hendricks and Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh in 2023 in the draft. Cody Williams and Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski in 2024 in the draft. Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton, and John Tonje in 2025. So Jazz have 10 players on their roster that they drafted, and that is the blueprint. But they added Larry Marketing back in with the Donovan Mitchell trade, he's an all-star player, and then they added also Yusuf Nurkic and the Colin Sexton trade, and they added Kevin Love in that three-way trade with the LA Clippers and Miami Heat, with the Norman Powell going to the Clippers, and also Kyle Anderson and George Niang. So they've balanced the young guys' playing time with 2 or 3 veterans on the team, and that's why right now, Sean, they're the 10th seed, and it's very possible and maybe likely they could be in the play-in tournament. Because, Sean, do the Trailblazers put fear in your heart?
No.
Do the Kings put fear in your heart?
Not yet.
Do the Pelicans put fear in your heart? Do the Clippers, who've lost now 18 of the last 21 games, put fear in your heart? And do the Mavericks, with Kyrie coming back probably February 1st, do we trade Davidson, our AD or not? Do we trade? What happens? Cooper Flagg's been great. So the Jazz, it's absolutely possible that they'll be in the play-in tournament.
Okay, and that begs the question, if you're in that play-in tournament and you lose your protected pick to Oklahoma City, who's already a nightmare with young talent, is it worth it that you got this young core playoff-level experience, that you got this young core play-in tournament-level experience, if you don't know whether or not these guys are even going to be like your real team when you're a good team again?
Well, I'm pretty sure a good team will be Keontae George will be on it, so will Ace Bailey be on it, so is Isaiah Collier be on it, and so will Filipowski, other guys. So you're saying indirectly that because it's the unknown, it's better to lose, not purposely, but lose with a gentleman's nod.
Well,
it's okay.
I'm not saying that because I hate the very notion of tanking. As a competitor, you want to compete.
That's an understatement. You're underscoring that.
It's a question about the business of basketball because you went through this whole rigmarole for the last 2 seasons. All right, we're going to do a rebuild, and the way you do a rebuild in the NBA is you suck on purpose, Gordy. And then the sort of understanding with this protected pick was that you were going to make sure you maintain that. Yes, you were going to develop the young players. You're going to give them some time. You were going to allow them to get better as individuals, as a unit. But you were not going to sacrifice a pick to Oklahoma City in doing that. If you end up being better than you thought you would be, and you do have to sacrifice that pick to Oklahoma City, is the ultimate outcome for your franchise, because you're still not going to be anything this year. You're not going to be a championship contender next year. But, if we're getting into 2027, 2028, 2029, are they going to look back on it and say, yeah, that was worth it, that special year we had in 25, 26?
Whose viewpoint are you looking at?
Owner.
The owner, okay.
Fan base.
I'm going more Players.
Well, players, obviously, you just want to win as many games as you can.
I'm going Keontae George.
Of course.
That's
but
what
for
I'm
the
looking
team,
at.
for the franchise, Gordy, I'm talking about for the owner and the general manager and the team president and the people that are going to be here, whether Keontae stays or gets traded, and Lowry stays or gets traded. Are they going to look at it and say, man, I really wish I had that pick? Or are they going to look at it and say, the lessons we learned with Keontae and Kyle Filipowski in that season are now translating to greater success here?
Yes, the answer, I'm going to later.
All right, I like
That's what I'm doing right now. Again, it's that great debate because remember, we can recite, and we've done this many times, Sean, you and I, over the years, that about, oh, by the way, Austin Reeves was undrafted.
Yeah.
He's averaging 28 points a game. So if the draft is done over in 2017, he'd be probably, what, the first pick of the draft then?
The first or second, yeah.
Freddie Van Fleet, he's injured right now. That guy was undrafted. So we can name so many guys undrafted or second-round picks. Josh Hart, the Knicks won the championship. Jalen Brunson, All-NBA, the 33rd pick of the draft.
Yeah. And conversely, you can name a bunch of guys
Absolutely.
who went 1, 5, 7, 9, that ended up being nothing.
You got that right. So it's the great debate that every team, but here's the exception. See, you come from the viewpoint of the NFL with a quarterback. You're exactly right. And a quarterback in the NFL, it's everything.
Sure.
You get the right quarterback, the franchise is uplifting. But in basketball, there's alternative ways to do it. It's slightly different. So in the NFL, let's lose the last 2-3 games because we want to pick high in the draft because we like the quarterback 1 through 4 in the first round. In basketball, it's different, with the exception being Victor Wembanyama. That's the exception, and also Cooper Flagg. That's the exception.
But they tried to do that for Cooper Flagg and ended up with pick number 5.
Yeah, Ace Bailey, who's going to be an all-star someday. So, again, if I'm Ace Bailey, if I was
not a bad consolation prize.
No, it's not. No. So, Sean, here's an idea to think about. So, if I'm Ace Bailey, is that I'm getting after Cooper Flagg. So, he's my contemporary. He scored against us, meaning the Jazz. He scored 42 points recently. Next time we play, that I've got to try to outduel him, not outscore him, but outduel him and slow him down. And that's the beauty of being a player in professional sports. It's not how good you are, it's who you play against. Can you outplay them 3 to 4 times? It's a fascinating debate. I'm a coach, so I know that I view the world differently, that winning is absolutely important, but not at all cost. But the play, Sean, also, when you don't win in a game, when you don't play to win, that's when you always get hurt. It's a phenomena. Give it your all. Just play. Let the dice roll where it goes.
That's Gordy Chiesa. He's with us here live at the Road Home Mediathon. If you want to donate, 801-819-7300. You could go to theroadhome.org, or you can just Venmo or hit them on PayPal at the Road Home. They're helping families get back on their feet. It is more than a worthy cause. Help out if you can. If you don't have extra cash, but maybe you've got in good condition, lightly used or brand new underwear. You've got coats, hats, gloves. You've got, boots that your kids grew out of after they wore them twice. Whatever. Bring them down here to Midvale, 529 West 9th Avenue, the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. These next 2 days are very, very important days for the Road Home and for their mission. We're down here. Gordy's here. Sean O'Connell here. Hot lunch is coming next. Gordy's going to still hang out with us. And don't forget, 10 minutes from now, we'll make it 12 minutes from now, the first Kyle Whittingham interview post-retirement/separation announcement was conducted with Scott Mitchell this morning. We will give you that sound in our noon segment. Don't go anywhere. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Fun fact, this is Gordy Chiesa's favorite Christmas song. That's why we're playing it here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Coming at you live today from the Road Home Mediathon. Plenty of ways to donate, 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or at The Road Home on Venmo and PayPal. Gordy sitting down with us for another 10 minutes or so. Then we'll have the Kyle Whittingham interview from earlier this morning on Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. Gordy, the NBA Cup. The New York Knicks found a way, and look, I applaud the creativity of the NBA trying to make this midseason tournament a thing and throwing some skin in the game to help up the stakes and things like that. Does it change your thought, your opinion, your handicapping of the Knicks' ability to win a championship that they won the Cup?
No, it does not. However, it gives the players confidence, and Knicks are a viable team, and they're going to contend in the East. I still like the Pistons and the Cavaliers, who right now are hurting, but I do think they're going to, and the Celtics also, I think they're going to contend also. But in the present tense, Knickerbockers, they won the championship. It's important to the players. It gives them a chance to bond as a unit and also develop team chemistry. I'm all for it. It was a home run. The players are into it, so are the fans. Now, the next question is, Sean, they're moving out of Las Vegas after a 3-year contract because Vegas probably is going to get an expansion team. It'll be announced in the year 2026. They'll announce it, and we'll see when it actually gets into fruition. So the question is, Sean, is the NBA Cup's going to move next year to a different venue, and Commissioner Silver has said that it might go to a historic college campus.
Interesting.
So I wrote down 5 places, Sean, where it could be. 1, Lexington, Kentucky, Rupp Arena holds 20,500 people. 2, Allen Fieldhouse, University of Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, holds 16,300 people. 3, KFC Yum Center, Louisville, Kentucky, holds 22,000 people. 4, the Pit in Albuquerque, New Mexico, holds 15,411, and the last one is Bud Walton Arena, holds 19,368 in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And that's right, Bud Walton, that's named after James Bud Walton, the co-founder of a company called, what's it called, Sean? Walmart?
Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart. So those are the 5 places where I believe the NBA is going to choose one of those 5. And if they choose Kentucky, that it'll be like a homecoming for many of the players because Kentucky has the most players in the NBA as we speak, with Duke being a close second. So the way the rules are, you don't want to play like, say, at Cameron Indoor, even though because it's great, but the Charlotte Hornets there, you have to play in a state where there's no NBA team to make it more feasible.
Which of those places would you like to see most? If you could vote, if Adam Silver calls you and says, hey, Gordy, where should we put this thing? Where are you telling him to take it?
Lawrence, Kansas.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, Allen Fieldhouse. It's crazy. You know, and the players would love it. Again, it's just 2 games. It's the semifinals, and then the 2 winners play in the finals. It'll be sold out, unbelievable. It'll be incredible intensity, and may the best team win. I'm all for it.
All right, the Lakers are at the Delta Center tonight. 9.5-point favorites. What do you expect from this game?
Well, right now, this is game 3 for the Lakers versus the Jazz. Jazz are 0-2. And remember, Sean, that the last game of the season, the Lakers play at home against the Jazz. So it could matter. It could matter. On April 12th is the last game. So tonight's the 3rd game of the series. I look for the Jazz to beat them at home. At home. Jazz are playing well.
All right.
And the Jazz are going to come out with a lot of energy. And so far the Lakers had some defensive problem. So did the Jazz, though. I get that. Austin Reeves is out with a mid-left calf strain. DeAndre Ayton out with a left elbow strain. Luka Doncic has absolutely been sensational. 34.7 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 8.8 assists. LeBron James turns 41 on December 30th. He's missed the first 16 games of the year. He's played 9 games so far. He's averaging 17.6 points per game and 7.2 assists, and 5.9 rebounds. So it should be a hard-fought game. I like the Jazz quote in an upset.
I like the prediction. What's your list today, Gordy?
All right, my list today has a Utah Jazz flavor. Korea three-point field goal leaders for 7-footers or taller.
Okay.
The most Korea threes made by players that are 7 foot or taller. What are some of the attributes besides tallness? 1, skill. 2, floor spacer. 3, get your legs under your shot. 4, arc delivery. And 5, and most of all, confident. Top 10, here we go. Number 10 all time, Frank Kaminsky. He made 428 threes. Number 2, from Cameroonian, Joel Embiid made 544 threes. Number 8, Italian player Andre Bargnani. He made 627 threes. Number 7, former Jazz player, Canadian also, Kelly Olynyk is 7th all time.
Wow.
At 927.
I never would have
Number
guessed.
6, from Latvia, Kristaps Porzingis, 974. 5 all time. Channing Frye, 1,049. Number 4, he plays for the LA Clippers, Brook Lopez, 1,099. Number 3, he plays for the New York Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns, 1,162. Number 2, he's going to play tonight at the Delta Center. He's a pride of Finland. He's also loved by Jazz fans. Larry Markkinen is 2nd all-time as a 7-footer, as the most made triples with 1,212. The number 1 player of all time as a 7-footer with the most made trifectas is that big, tall German named Dirk Nowitzki with 1,982 made triples. Thus, Sean, that's my list of the day. Yes, tall is good. Making threes is even better.
How many? 2, 3 of those guys are Americans?
The Americans are Kaminsky, Channing Frye, Brook Lopez, 4.
4, okay.
So
Karl Anthony Towns, Brook Lopez, Channing Frye, Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah.
4 of the top 10. The big men in Europe could shoot better.
Yes, they can. It's, again, it's the mentality, Sean. It's how they develop them. All-around skills is that they don't just don't play inside, which is good also, but the versatility. That's what makes Larry Markkinen so unbelievable. Where he can go, he got some edgy toughness.
Yeah.
He got some hops to him also, but he's really skilled, and you get a good feeling when it's that swing pass for a corner 3. He's a knockdown shooter.
That's Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru, brought to you by our friends over at Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealers. Gordy has already made his donation to the road home. He came down here in person. He participates. 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, Venmo or PayPal at the Road Home, and you can come down in person to 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale to give lotions, shampoos, diapers, hats, gloves, boots. They need bottles and sippy cups. They need towels. Anything you got, they will put to good use, getting individuals and families out of homelessness, back on their feet, and on the road home. All right, Scott Mitchell on Down and Dirty this morning. Well, he does what only Scott Mitchell can do, and he just goes right to Kyle Whittingham and says, hey, you want to jump on the show? You want to tell it from your side? We've got the sound for you. Kyle Whittingham's first interview after announcing that he was done as head coach at the University of Utah from earlier today on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. That's in 3 minutes. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show, noon hour. Here from the Road Home Mediathon. Here's what they need. The Road Home, to get people out of homelessness back on their feet, they need underwear, especially men's large sizes and up. They need bottles and sippy cups, towels, clean condition, coats of all sizes, boots of all sizes, hats and gloves of all sizes, diapers, size 5 and 6 in particular, lotions, shampoos, conditioners, body washes, they're preferred over bar soaps. It's easier for people to store, for people to reuse. So, travel size bottle, full size bottles, bring them on down to 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale. We're here today. We're here tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The Road Home Mediathon, big event every year. If you want to donate monetarily, 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or on Venmo or PayPal at The Road Home. All right. A lot of us are wondering what's going to happen with Kyle Whittingham after the Vegas Bowl. He answered that question with Scott Mitchell in the first interview he has done post-announcement that he's done at the University of Utah. We're playing that sound for you now. It's about 18, 20 minutes of Kyle Whittingham from Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell this morning right here on ESPN 700. Take a listen.
Joining us right now on the show is none other than Kyle Whittingham. Of course, he's the head coach at the University of Utah. He will be stepping down after the Las Vegas Bowl after 21 years. Of course, he is the all-time winningest coach, greatest coach in Utah football history. Coach Kyle Whittingham, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good, Scott. How you doing?
Not bad. I'm living the dream. It's not a nightmare, so I can't complain.
Yeah. There you go.
I want to ask you this question because I don't know the answer. I don't think I've ever heard you say this. I've never asked you this question. Why did you get into coaching?
You know what? That's a great question, and I really hadn't thought much about it until I was about maybe my junior year in college, and I'm thinking, you know what, this is, pretty soon I'm going to be done with college, and what am I going to do? And I thought about maybe entering the business world and trying to find a niche there, but talked to my dad a little bit, and he said, coaching's been good to me, and you may want to think about that and see how you like that. So I said, great. And then, I talked to Lavelle and Coach Edwards and said, hey, I'll be done here after a year and would love to, come back and help out as a GA and kind of get my feet wet as a coach and see how it goes. And he said, well, absolutely, we'll give you that opportunity. So after I graduated, I went for a short stint in the NFL with the Broncos, very short stint, got let go about midway through training camp, and then had the chance to play in the USFL for 3 years. And once that went defunct and it was over with, then I came back and said, hey, coach, is the offer still good? And Coach Edwards said, absolutely. And so away it went. That's where it all started.
What was your expectation? Like when you got into it, you started coaching. Did you ever see it ending up where it has? I mean, what did you expect from it all?
Well, I don't know if anybody could have foreseen, the whole thing, but I had grown up the son of a coach, obviously, and so I knew the ins and outs and the time requirements and and all the sacrifice that you have to make, and not only you but your family. I mean, it's very hard on your spouse and kids, and so I was really well aware. I went in with eyes wide open, and it just. One thing led to another. After I GA'd, I got a chance to go up to Idaho State, and that was really my first college job. And Garth Hall gave me the opportunity to go up there and coach linebackers, and spent 7 years there, and went to Utah in '94, and been here ever since.
Boy, that's a name from I knew Garth Hall growing up in football camps and all that stuff, and I believe we played Idaho State when you were there when I was at Utah.
I think they played them twice. Yeah, we played them twice, and I think you were not there. Well, no, you were. You're right. You shellacked us out here in Salt Lake. It was like 56 to something. But I thought you were 1 year removed, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought, in fact, you were, because we didn't play Utah, I believe, until a few years later. But you might have played Idaho State when I wasn't there. How about that?
You weren't. Yeah. Because I don't think I would have had the success had you been there. It'd been a different deal.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So Kyle Whittingham, you son of a coach. I love he's a son of a coach. All right. So you mentioned your family, your wife, Jamie, and one of the things that's really cool for me, I've really appreciated this, and you don't even know what I'm going to say here, but so I'm on the radio calling the games, and we're there early, and so the teams show up, especially on the road. And every week your wife is right there. Jamie is right on the sideline, literally every game, home, away. Of course, she's been by your side the whole way. What's that meant to you to have her, I mean, literally right there? I think it's the coolest thing in the world.
Well, she's been awesome and such a great support. And if you don't have, there's two types of coaches' wives, and that's it. And it's really, really good ones that get it, and ex-wives, and that's about where you're at. And so if you get a wife that doesn't get it and is not willing to support you, that's not going to last long. And fortunately, I got one of the good ones, and she has been by my side, like I said, ever since I got started on this thing, even back when I was a grad assistant. And it's been a heck of a ride. And she's endured a lot of sacrifice in a lot of ways. She's been a single parent for a lot of the year when the season starts. It's I'm not around much, and so she did a great job raising 4 kids and holding the fort down for us.
What's the best advice she gave you in coaching?
Oh, wow. She really kind of stayed out of it and didn't really give advice other than just, be confident and don't stress and enjoy the ride. I mean, that's what I heard over and over from everyone, enjoy it. And I have a hard time enjoying it because I'm so competitive. I enjoy it when you win. And if you don't win, then it's miserable. And so I'm losing averse, I think is what they labeled me, where you hate losing more than you love winning. And so in that respect, we've been fortunate here to be at Utah with a lot of really good players and really good coaches and won far more games than we lost.
One of the things, I mean, a lot of people have said this, including myself, and I really believe this, that I think you've done the best coaching job in the country in the last 25 years. I think you've done more with less and had more success. And it's quite a compliment to you in how you recruit these players. They buy into this culture, you develop them, and you really get the most out of them. But I'm really curious about this recruiting philosophy that you've been a part of. How did that come to be, and what did you look for in players? In fact, I heard someone recently talk. Gosh, it was Eric Weddle. Like, a lot of people didn't see Eric Weddle as a good player, and he's a good example of one of those players. I know Luther Ellis is a guy that came. I don't know if you were at Utah at that time, but there've just been a lot of players that, under the radar that you guys have found and figured out. And how do you do that? What was the philosophy of recruiting?
Well, first of all, you got to look for the raw material, and what you see at the high school level and what they're doing is not necessarily indicative of what they're going to be doing in 3 years, and then you got to project. And so you got to be able to be an evaluator that can tell if a young man is maxed out in high school and doesn't have much more room for improvement, or maybe there's a ton of upside because he's got a big frame, he's a little on the light side, and we can put some weight on him, and he has the athleticism and the speed that we need. And so it's really evaluation. And our assistant coaches through the years have done such a great job of targeting the right guys, and also character. That's a big part of our equation. If we've turned down hundreds of really good players here that just weren't our kind of guys. They didn't have the character we're looking for, because character goes a long way. And so if they all that matches up, when we think they have a big upside and they're high character players, and we get into the program. And then our mantra here is recruit, develop, and manage. You recruit the right guys, you develop them while they're here, and you manage them and make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing and buying into the culture and all that type of thing. And so it's not an exact science. You're not going to be right all the time, but if you can be right 2 out of 3 times, if 2 out of every 3 young men that you bring through the doors end up being good players for you, then you're going to have a really good roster and about 60, 65 guys that can really play football. And if you're right half the time, you'll be a so-so team, and if you're right 1 out of 3, you'll get fired. And so that's about the size of it.
What's your most proud moment of your time at Utah? What are you most proud of?
Well, I would say that the thing that is the most rewarding is to see these young men come in here, 18-year-old freshmen, maybe with not a lot of structure in their lives, not a lot of discipline, and maybe thinking that academics isn't that big a deal, and seeing them leave here with a degree in hand, equipped to become, productive members of society and good husbands and fathers and all that. So that is the most rewarding thing, and particularly on graduation day, in the spring when you get to go to watch these guys get their degrees and their families all there. And many of our players, many of them are first-time college graduates in their family. And so that's really something special to see when that happens.
I would imagine so. I coached high school football and it was just I got such a thrill out of these players, and they would send me notes years later and just say, "Hey man, you made such a difference in my life," and just fun to watch them grow. And I just on a much smaller scale than you, but I'm sure it was really satisfying.
Yeah, I get those notes and texts and emails, and you're right that after the fact and there's not a lot that is more rewarding than that, as well as to hear from former players say, "Boy, what we learned in your program really helped us in life," and so forth. You're right. That's a big part of it as well.
When Coach Shula, when he coached me, he's like, the thing he told you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear. And in the moment, you didn't necessarily appreciate it, but boy, you did later on. You're just like, I needed that. So, and I'm so grateful that someone was willing to hold me to a standard, and just very, very much appreciated. So,
exactly.
What do you do from here? Like, so
that's a great question. Go ahead.
Well, I just wonder. I mean, because it's. You step down is kind of the verbiage. What does that mean? Are you going to be around? Do you looking to coach some more? College pros. You want to come be a radio host? You can be my assistant radio host.
Your sidekick?
Yeah, why not?
Your sidekick, you bet. Well, that's a great question. What's on the what does the future hold? And I know I've been on the coaching treadmill for 35, 40 years now, and a lot of me wants to say, hey, just relax, take some time, catch your breath. But then my competitive juices are there as well, and I'm just right now in the process. Well, right now we're preparing for this bowl game, and that's our entire focus. But after that's over with, I've got some thinking to do, and some just take a step back and take it all in and gain some perspective on the situation, and then decide from there.
If you want some advice, call me. We don't have to talk about it now, but call me. I'll give you some good advice. If you want it. It's totally up to you. I seriously mean that, by the way.
I got you.
So you mentioned your last game. What do you want to accomplish from this? Is this I don't know. I have a thought about it, but I'm curious what you want to accomplish. Is it awkward? Is it weird because you're stepping down, or is this a nice way to have great closure? Or, what's your expectation from this last game?
Yeah, I would say the latter. I think that it's going to be, I'm at peace right now, and know the program's in good hands with Coach Scally, and the program's in a good place. And that was really my primary objective for coming back this year. Is I was just so disgruntled, disappointed. Last year with all the stuff we went through, and I did not want to leave the program in that state when I left, and so I came back, and fortunately we had an outstanding year. I got a great group of guys, great leadership, and we were able to get the ship back on track. And the program, like I said, we got good players, good coaches. Coach Scally's taking over, so I think the future looks bright for Utah football.
I think one of the most impressive things that you did in your coaching at Utah was transition from a group of five to a Power 5 team when you guys moved to the Pac-12. Those first few years were kind of lean. There were some tough times. How did you get through that move and those kind of early, really lean years?
Yeah, well, the first year out, we actually had a chance to win the South. If we would have just taken care of business against Colorado in our last game, we would have been the South champions, but didn't get it done. And then it was the next 2 years that were fairly difficult. I think we were 5-7 both years, something like that. But anyways, it was when we made the transition. we felt like we were equipped at the line of scrimmage to compete with pretty much anyone in the league, but we needed to upgrade, the perimeter athleticism and speed, and that took a few years to get that done. And once we got that done, after a couple seasons and a couple recruiting cycles, then we started to get real traction in the league, and then of course we what did we play in four straight
4 in a row
championship games,
yeah
4 in a row, and able to win the last 2, finally have that breakthrough. And the only thing that was kind of disappointing is we weren't able to get a victory in either of the Rose Bowls, but just so proud of our guys and our coaches for getting there. And that was a milestone for the program, but would have been nice to be able to come away with a victory there.
Yeah, it would have. Speaking of those moments, I remember when that was my first thought. Okay, Utah's to the Pac-12. I'm like, oh wow, we can go to the Rose Bowl now, and that was, and then to see it happen twice was really special. Do you have a moment that, and I'm talking about a game moment? Like, was there a game? Was it winning the championship? Was there a game that really stands out? The most memorable or meaningful game you had as the head coach at Utah?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 of them. The Sugar Bowl obviously was a huge, another milestone for the program, if you will, and another indicator that, hey, we're on the national scene and we can compete with pretty much anybody. And then games that stood out in my mind: the TCU game, the blackout game here at night, where we ended up, Brian Johnson hit Freddie Brown on that slant with 30 seconds left or whatever it is to take the lead and win the game. And then the Oregon game, where Britt Covey takes the last play of the first half, punt return back. I mean, the crowd is just, there's been 4 or 5 or 6 moments in that stadium, Rice Eccles, where the crowd is just deafening. And most recently is when Devin broke that long run against K-State. When we were there at the end of the game, and the crowd there, even though there were some people that had already left, but when Rice Eccles gets rocking and that crowd is in high gear, it's a special place.
How concerned are you about the direction of college football?
Well, concerned, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. But the current state is not sustainable. What we're doing now, and with how things are structured now, it's not sustainable, and they're going to have some major overhauls, and I think you'll see that coming on the horizon in 2 or 3 years at the soonest, and maybe 4 or 5 years at the latest. But they've got to do something and get things some guardrails, if you will. I mean, it's just right now still the wild west, for the last 2 or 3 years, and we got to get some structure, and it's got to be implemented fairly soon, because most athletic departments in the country, if not all, are running at a deficit now with the rev share and everything that's going on. So it's tough times right now for college football, but I'm confident they'll get it figured out eventually.
Okay, last question. How would you evaluate your coaching job at Utah? If you were looking at it, what would you say about the job you've done here?
Well, I say we did a great job of getting really good assistant coaches in here who got really good players in here, and that's what it's all about. College football is all about the players. A lot of head coaches in college don't think that. They think it's about them, and they're the main attraction. But it's a players' game, and that's the big key to our success, and the way that we've been able to get it done for so many years is have the right players in the program, and as we already talked about, developing them. And again, I can't say more positive things about our assistant coaches, and I've been very blessed to have a bunch of really good guys around me, and really makes my job pretty easy.
Well, coming from someone who went to Utah in 1986, and they were some lean years when I was there, and I never imagined it would end up how it's done. I thank you from the bottom of my heart in what you've done for the school as the coach. It's been phenomenal. Seriously, greatest of all time at the University of Utah. You have done an excellent job coaching, and I will tell you that. And I don't think anyone's done a better one in college football. So, again, I thank you for your time today, and thank you for all you've done for the University of Utah, just the person you are. And it's an honor, and I really appreciate that I know you in the way that I do. And so my best to you always, and thank you for your time.
Well, likewise, Scott, and I appreciate your kind words very much, and you've been a great support through the years, and hope that continues.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great day, Kyle,
Okay.
and best of luck coming up in Las Vegas.
Okay, I'm sure we'll see you soon. Thanks, Scotty. All right.
All right.
That's Kyle Whittingham. He is still the head coach of Utah football for one last game coming up in that Vegas Bowl, as you heard him talking about with Scott Mitchell. That was this morning on the Down and Dirty. Shout out to Scott. Incredible job getting that interview and conducting the interview and getting Kyle Whittingham to answer a couple of the questions that, all of us have. And I think the most important one that was asked was, so what's next? And Kyle Whittingham doesn't have a definitive answer on that, but he did not say retirement. It feels less and less likely that that is his plan after 21 years at the University of Utah. So I'm sure we'll hear more from Kyle Whittingham. There's media availability after practice today. So maybe, a couple more answers coming on that front. You'll hear from Kyle Whittingham and from Morgan Scalley. And it's really kind of like the first return to normalcy on the media front since the announcement was made. And it was a release by Kyle Whittingham. It was a release by the athletic department and a release by Kyle Whittingham's agent. So now we're getting conversation about it. Big thanks to Scott Mitchell for lending us that sound from his show today. And, again, an incredible job by Scott in getting Kyle Whittingham on and asking him a lot of questions. And not just like let's find out the big-time answers, but, man, giving Kyle Whittingham the space to talk about, the beginning of his career, the origins of why he wanted to be a coach, what he's most proud of, his relationship with his wife, which is really inspiring if you're a married person and you know how difficult it can be to get a spouse to understand your, schedule and you to understand their schedule and things like that. The Whittinghams, as far as any of us are able to see, are just a wonderful testament to how you make relationships work for decades. It's really, really cool. We have thoughts. We'll unpack more of them, but we got to take a break right now. We're at the Road Home Mediathon. It is a huge donation drive happening right now. They need goods. They need cash. All right? We're here 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. today and tomorrow, 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale. And if you have underwear, bottles, sippy cups, towels, hats, gloves, diapers, especially size 5 and 6, lotions, shampoos, conditioners, body washes, or you just want to throw a donation their way, 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or at The Road Home on Venmo and PayPal. Daily Dump is coming up next on the Sean O'Connell Show. We're halfway through on ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM. The truck with the duck now features not only plumbing help, but also HVAC. If you need help with your furnace, your duct cleaning, etc., Valley Plumbing and HVAC can hook you up. Look for the truck with the duck and tell them OC sent you. Time for a daily dump. That James, I've been waiting to get to this with you because this was a study conducted by your favorite university. Ohio State did a study about.
Oh, the reigning national champions, you mean?
Okay. Did a study about parents' expectations for their young athletes. How many parents, if I said, give me a percentage number, how many parents that participated in this survey that took place over a fall and spring between 2018 and 2019, how many, percentage-wise, how many parents think that their young child, all right, their preteen children, are likely to become college scholarship athletes? What do you think the percentage is on parents who are like, yeah, my kid can earn a college scholarship?
Now, are these parents of current Ohio State athletes, or are they
No.
Okay.
Nationwide, all 50 states.
Gotcha. Okay.
Across, they attempted to get a large sample size across all socioeconomic status.
Okay. How many parents? The percentage? Let's see. 95%. I feel like parents are delusional about this. And by the way, my little boy is going to be too.
Not quite that delusional, but still highly delusional. The actual number, by the way, for what the percentage is of high school athletes that continue their athletic careers into some level of college play, which means this is all levels. This is NAIA, D2, D3, etc. And those, of course, are not scholarship athletes because you can't really give athletic scholarships outside of the Division I and 1AA worlds or the FBS and FCS worlds, right? So 7.5% of high school athletes, roughly that, continue on to play across all levels. A much smaller percentage is a scholarship athlete, right? Because of that 7.5% that continue at the collegiate level, it's only about 25% that are on a scholarship, right? So it's a very, very, very small percentage of high school athletes end up being scholarship athletes in college. Parents, 27% of parents out there think it's likely that they will become a college scholarship athlete.
Okay.
34% think that their kid could become a small-time college athlete. So, like, my kid could play at a community college or NAIA or something like that.
So was that add up to 61%? Is that right?
Yeah, 61% of parents out there think that their kids can play college.
They're gonna play beyond high school. Okay.
Now here's where it gets wild. What do you think the percentage of parents is that think their kid could be a professional or Olympic athlete? Because I kind of get the college thing. As a parent, you're like, oh, that's a great thing to aspire to. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Most of us know at least a few college athletes or former college athletes, whether you're deeply ingrained in sports culture or not. You probably have a neighbor who is like, oh, yeah, that person in my ward, or that person that I see at the post office, or that person that does the kids' crosswalk was a college volleyball player, something like that.
Or my kids' youth coach, my kids' junior high or high school coach played that way. Yeah, right. We definitely know multiple people in our communities that are like that. It does seem more attainable because of that, I feel like.
So what percent thought it was somewhat likely that their child would become a professional or Olympic athlete?
Okay. 9%?
17% of people. 17% of parents, which 1 in 5 parents, effectively.
So just higher than people who think they're going to play, their kid's going to play Division I athletes think they're going to be even better than that? Or just lower than that? That's wild.
I wish I could go ask my own parents when I was like 10 to participate in this survey. Because, A, my parents were not big-time sports people, right? So they would have been like, no. But also, they would have been correct if they said no on the college scholarship thing. I was not a scholarship athlete in college. And then they would have said, well, what about a professional athlete? They would have been like, no, because if they're not a college scholarship athlete, then they're not going to be a professional athlete. But they would have been incorrect on that one.
That's true. You know what? As I kind of made fun of the 17% gets pretty close to the 27% of parents who believe their athletic child is going to be a scholarship athlete in college. I mean, you're right about that. I don't think about sports like the combat sports or some of these other Olympic sports that are not necessarily, hey, you go to college, you compete in college before you get to that level route.
But the opportunities in those are, I mean,
it's still pretty low.
They're very low.
Yeah.
I mean, even like there's a lot more college scholarships than there are professional, like high-level professionals in snowboarding or in MMA or in boxing or in, like water polo where you can play in Europe or whatever. So just a fascinating study. Again, it's not overly surprising because especially when you have kids, if someone comes to me and is just like, hey, do you think, your daughter's going to be a college athlete? I'm going to absolutely. I'm going to be one of the dumb parents that's just like, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I'm on record now as saying my little boy is going to also, and he's only 6 months old.
The survey is probably going to look at me and just be like, why would you believe that?
Yeah, the childless person who's conducting the survey is like, well, come on now. Like, you don't get it, okay?
I'll be like, well, she's 6 and she's pretty fast, okay? As silly as that sounds, it makes total sense when you have kids. You're just like, yeah. If someone comes to you, especially someone wearing some stupid Ohio State, like, sweater vest, they're going to be like, hey, do you think
you mean really cool Ohio State Jim Tressel era sweater vest?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Probably from Jim Tressel himself. They're just like, do you think that your kid's going to be an Olympian? I'm going to look straight in their face, and I'm going to be like, yeah. In what sport? Don't know.
What, do you not think they will be? How dare you?
And they'll be like, well, if you want your kid to be an Olympian, at age 6, they probably should have already been in that sport for 2 years, okay? If you want them to be an Olympian.
And your response would be, you know what? Your doubts just fuel us, okay?
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. You're just adding motivation,
She's
so
just
you're welcome.
Silence all the haters, okay? Like, I think part of being a parent is you have to be delusional about your kid's own abilities.
You do.
Like their intelligence, how funny they are. That's why you want to keep them alive. You love them unconditionally. You know what I mean? Even when your kids suck, even people who have like those little turd kids, they love their kids.
Those little turd kids.
You know
They're loved too.
You go to the playground and there's that little kid who's just an absolute agent of chaos, kicking all the other kids off the slide and not sharing any of the toys and just being a little nightmare. You're just like, oh, man, that kid is a problem. That kid's parent responded to this Ohio State survey and said, yeah, my child's going to be an Olympian.
Did you see the way he picked up that poor child and threw them onto the sawdust?
That's a Greco-Roman wrestler right there. And the rest of the parents at the playground are looking at that little kid, and they're just like, Olympian, that kid's going to be incarcerated, okay? Your kid's a problem. That's what they need to do with these. I want Ohio State, you're welcome. Here's a suggestion. Instead of asking about a parent about their own kid, you go to the next door neighbor when you find the house that has the kids, and you ask those people, the adults in that house, about the next door neighbor kids. Do you think that kid's going to be an Olympian? Do you think that kid is going to be a professional athlete? Do you think that kid is going to be a college scholarship
What do you
athlete?
think that kid's future is? And what percentage? And then the percentage is like 30% incarceration.
It's going to go the affirmatives on the will they be college athletes is going to go way down to like realistic numbers.
Yeah.
Because when it's your neighbor kid, you can't deny it. If that kid's super fast and like a tough little dude,
oh yeah,
you're going, hey man, pretty cool. I don't know. So you're looking at it and just going, man, this kid could be something someday. Or you're going to look at that kid and just be like, oh, you're talking about little Johnny next door? Yeah, he's not an Olympian.
Overrated.
Okay? That kid plays PlayStation 5 all day long, all right? He is going to be
maybe he'll win a Madden tournament. I don't know. You can get a lot of money for that from what I hear, winning those.
Fascinating Ohio State study, though.
Yeah.
I love that they did it.
Shout out to the Buckeyes, of course.
No, not shout out to the Buckeyes. All right, this one, I don't even know how to think about this one. So, what what are we doing with the Nakua family? All right? Do we know what we're doing with the Nakua family right now? So there's Puka Nakua, who's making some controversial statements about how refs want to be on television, which I don't have any problem with because he's probably 100% right. You know what I mean? So Puka is...
And not near as controversial as other things in that live stream, but yeah.
Puka Nakua is... I didn't even know about the other thing in the live stream, by the way.
I don't think we should go that far into it, but let's just say there's a touchdown dance that he said he would do in tonight's game when he scores a touchdown that he just shouldn't do. We'll leave it there.
That's fine. We'll leave it at that.
And hopefully the NFL does something to prevent it, like they've done.
Well,
the nose wipe thing, they've outlawed it. Hopefully they saw this and went, you know what, we're going to try to do what we can to prevent Puka from doing this touchdown.
He's issued an apology for whatever he said about that.
Yeah.
I didn't see the whole live stream. We all have lives here, right? But so he was saying some things about refs, whatever. But now let's talk about another Nakua, Samson Nakua, who played obviously at the University of Utah and at BYU. So the entire Division I fan base in the state of Utah has some thoughts about Samson Nakua, and he has been arrested for allegedly stealing a vehicle that belongs to a Lakers backup, Adutiero.
What?
Yeah. Trey Rose and Samson Nakua, who is, of course, the brother of the Pro Bowl wide receiver and a professional player himself in the UFL or whatever.
And stand out in the LA sports community, obviously.
And by the way, Samson, in the UFL, this year he slapped a fan on the sideline.
Oh, no, Samson.
And now he got arrested for stealing a Lakers forward's car. What are we doing?
Oh, no, Samson.
The Nakua boys are wild, man.
And
remember when Kai Nakua in that bowl game with the blindside punches? These guys, you want to get on their bad side, they're going to punch you in the face or they're going to steal your car.
Unbelievable.
Allegedly, by the way. I don't want to get...
I hope Samson...
I got to make sure I add allegedly so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah, I hope Samson can get some people in his corner to help him kind of make sure that it doesn't get much... He doesn't do anything much worse than this, because it seems like he's going down a bit of a bad path here. Let's hope he can correct some things.
So here's another thing that we talk about, and when we've told these stories, it usually, let's be honest, it usually hasn't been athletes from the state of Utah.
Right.
It hasn't been athletes with close ties to the state of Utah, where, I mean, we all know the, Ja Morant kind of man, when you grow up and you get out of whatever neighborhood you're in, you got to leave that neighborhood behind. You got to leave that mentality behind. You got to cut off some relationships. You got to tell some bad eggs in your friend group or your family that, hey, you can't ruin this for me.
Yeah, you got to, and even if that's just I still love you, but I can't really associate with you very much right now.
You would absolutely hate for it to get that way for Puka.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's on his way to being one of the best receivers, and probably at one point he's going to sign an extension that makes him the highest paid receiver in all of football. And then the next receiver who gets an extension is going to have, he's going to leapfrog him or whatever. But there will be a brief blessed moment in Puka Nakua's career where he's going to be the guy at that position in the NFL. And you kind of need to not have your brothers causing problems in the community. So that sucks. You don't ever want to see it get to that point where Puka might have to be like, man, you got to move back to Utah for a while.
Yeah.
I got a house there too. I can't have you down here if you're stealing Lakers cars.
It's unbelievable. And again, just
allegedly
don't do. And regarding Puka, you can't be doing the controversial things that you might have promised that you're going to do in the live stream. But anyway, we can leave that there.
We talked about this earlier in the week, anticipating it would be the case, and finally, officially, it is. Spencer Fano is a unanimous All-American, the fifth one in Utah Utes history. The Football Writers Association of America named him a first-team All-American, making him a unanimous selection for first-team All-America. The first one since Clark Phillips in 2022.
Oh.
Congratulations to Mr. Fano, to the Fano family. I saw Logan Fano, he got a Senior Bowl invite or something.
What a week for the Fano family.
So, yeah, good things going on for the Fano family.
Hopefully he shows out well. And Logan's he's not likely to be a draft pick, but hopefully he can show out well for the NFL coaches and scouts that attend the Senior Bowl, enough that he gets one of those undrafted free agent camp invite type of signings too. I think that's probably the most likely thing if he is going to make an NFL team for next season. Not a draft pick. Obviously, if he gets drafted, we'll be over the moon for him. But I think the most attainable thing is, hey, show out well, make a great impression, so that the teams will want to sign you after the draft. Hopefully, that's what happens with Logan from the Senior Bowl.
Good for Spencer Fano, unanimous All-American, only the fifth one in Utah's illustrious football history, Outland Trophy, and now a unanimous All-American. It would actually be a serious travesty if you weren't the Outland Trophy winner and a unanimous All-American.
Yeah.
If you're the best in the entire country, you got to be a unanimous All-American.
Yeah,
Merlin Olsen won the Outland Trophy, and he was not a unanimous All-American. Utah State's never had a unanimous All-American.
So are we saying, of the FBS schools, there's been 11 total FBS schools from the state of Utah. There's been 11 total unanimous All-Americans. Is that what we figured out the other day? Six from BYU and now five from Utah.
5 from Utah, yes.
Yeah, Merlin. Merlin Olsen
said,
should have been one, right?
Yeah,
Outland
100%.
Trophy winner. Come on now. So
Yeah,
it should be 12.
I think legitimately back then, I think it was 1961 that he won the Outland Trophy.
Yeah.
How many writers in the Football Writers Association just have never seen you play?
Yeah.
They're probably just Utah State doesn't have cameras. There's no way for us to watch them. That had to be something.
It still feels like, and maybe the Outland Trophy wasn't awarded before All-Americans were like it is today, and maybe that's why, but it still feels like, hey, if your peers said he's the best individual at his position in the nation, at multiple positions in the nation, really?
Well, did this happen in the Big Ten?
We should give him first team.
Did this happen in the Big Ten where didn't the USC wide receiver, what's his name, Lemon?
Yeah.
Didn't he win the Blitnikoff?
Checking.
There was something that happened in the Big Ten where I don't know if it was Lemon or if it was Jeremiah Smith, but somebody was like a first-team All-America but a second-team All-Conference, or somebody won the Blitnikoff but was like a second-team All-Conference or something, which would be just ridiculous if that were the case.
Makai Lemon won the Blitnikoff from USC, so it must have been him.
All right, now I have to look up the all Big Ten teams to make sure I'm not disseminating false information. I also hate that we're talking about USC in the Big Ten.
Stupid. By the way, we don't have enough time to get through all this stuff that we could get through in the Daily Dump today, OC. This was a unexpected big news dump day, including Kyle Whittingham basically saying, to the answer that's when Scott asked him what's next for you, you didn't say you're retired. His answer is, I'm gonna have to see after the bowl game. That's been newsworthy too, an unexpected news dump today.
You know what would be the funniest thing ever? If he, after the bowl game, was just like, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
and he just,
all right.
And we just talked about the other possibilities for the last 2 weeks for no reason.
Or today after practice. You know what? I'm actually gonna retire after the bowl game.
I'm actually sick of all you guys wondering about me. Too much attention. I'm retired. There's your answer. All right, Sean O'Connell. So that's your Daily Dump. Look for the truck with the tuck for Valley Plumbing and HVAC. Tell them OC sent you when you make a call to get your furnace inspected or your drains cleaned. We're at the Road Home Mediathon. 801-819-7300 is the number that you call to make a donation. You can also do that at theroadhome.org, or you can shoot some Venmo or PayPal directly to @theroadhome. Tax-deductible donations if you're caring about that. Also, they're taking goods in the form of underwear, bottles, sippy cups, towels, coats, boots, hats, gloves, especially size 5 and 6 diapers, the big diapers, lotion, shampoo, conditioner, body wash. They need it all. 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale. We're here 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. today and tomorrow. Please, if you can, participate in the Road Home Mediathon. Help this wonderful cause. Donate what you can. All right, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Lynx, actually, have a very important figure in Minnesota sports joining the ranks of the front office. If you were going to add a former Jazz man, or a former Stars woman, I guess we could say, to the front office, who would it be? We'll talk about that next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. There's been years of talk about, hey, what could you do from a Utah Jazz perspective? Who could you bring back into the fold to improve things for the franchise that we all love and support so much here in the state of Utah? Karl Malone has actively campaigned to be put onto a coaching staff. There's been rumors about John Stockton getting bored and wanting to come down and help out with the point guards, things like that. Look, D. Will's got, his kids are getting to that kind of like high school graduation age. I think his youngest will be done here in a couple of years. I'd like to see Darren Williams come back and work with the Jazz. Carlos Boozer getting a job with the Jazz and getting his kids to come play for the Jazz. Let's go.
Boozer is with the front office right now, so that's one that
he's what? He's a scout.
He's a scout. He's over college scouting, I think. So he's trying to get his son Cam to come to the Jazz,
like
probably.
All right, okay. So great job by the organization. Get somebody like that back into the fold, especially now. There's so many of these that you don't realize. It's more in the college ranks where dad gets a job for the university and the kid ends up going to that university. Not as common in the NBA because of the draft and things like that. But, all right, I like it. So the reason I'm bringing this up today is because Kevin Garnett, renowned actor Kevin Garnett is how I'm going to introduce him. He also played some NBA basketball. He's rejoining the Minnesota Timberwolves in a front office position, and obviously he's going to serve a dual role where he helps out with the Minnesota Lynx as well. Now, the Timberwolves were involved in like a long litigation with the new ownership group and the former ownership group because Alex Rodriguez, yes, that Alex Rodriguez, and Mark Lore, if you remember, they agreed to the purchase price like 5 years ago. And since then, franchise valuations in every sport have exploded. And so they got the Minnesota Timberwolves at a relative bargain. And the old owner was like, can we cancel this sale? And let me get, $750 million out of this, $1 billion out of this, instead of, I think it was like $300 million or $400 million as the purchase price that they originally agreed to. So anyway, Garnett is now coming back as the waters settle with that litigation being over. They've mended fences. The new ownership group wants Garnett in the fold. He did not like or get along with Glenn Taylor, the former owner, and now that that relationship with the front office has been repaired because it's a fresh start, Kevin Garnett is going to be part of that front office. Also, ESPN is reporting that Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement will take place in Minnesota, and that's long overdue.
Yeah, and apparently Glenn Taylor was the main reason why his jersey has not been retired yet, which is good thing that guy's gone. Because how can you wait? Garnett retired in 2016. How can you wait 10 years for that guy to raise that guy's jersey to the rafters?
He spent 14 seasons in Minnesota. 10 times he was an all-star in a Timberwolves uniform. And remember, the Timberwolves, not exactly an illustrious history of superstar players. I mean, Kevin Garnett and those incredible jerseys, all of us have visions of that, right?
The black jerseys with the pine trees on the side, lining the side. One of my favorite NBA jerseys ever.
Yeah, they're great. And they're not cool, by the way, if Kevin Garnett is not playing well and elevating that team and, being in the MVP conversation, which he won in 2004. He was first-team defense 6 straight years from 2000 to 2005. And obviously, without Kevin Garnett, you are never a contender in that era, at least. 8 straight seasons they went to the postseason, and he leaves the team as the all-time leader in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Kevin Garnett leads the Timberwolves franchise in every statistical category. The old owner was just like, I don't know, let's not make it a big deal. Let's not hang this guy's jersey up.
Yeah, that's a 6'11", 7-footer leading your franchise in assists, by the way, and steals. Like that's what guards lead franchises in those numbers. And unless you're Nikola Jokic, who's climbing that list rapidly for the Nuggets, I probably already the all-time assist leader for the Nuggets. Unless you're him, guards lead the franchises in assists, and most of the time guards lead your franchises in steals. Kevin Garnett is nearly a 7-footer, has that distinction for the T-Wolves. Like, just an incredible player, obviously, for them. And, yeah, like you said, long overdue for him to finally get a commitment to, hey, we're going to put your number 21 in those rafters.
Have you seen him in Uncut Gems? Have you seen his acting?
I have not seen Uncut Gems, but I heard it was amazing.
Honestly, you guys know I'm a Sandler fan. Uncut Gems is not comedic, all right? It is a drama. It is a frenetic pace. It makes you sweat watching that movie. Just the pacing of it and how he's like constantly juggling all these different hustles to try to. But anyway, Kevin Garnett plays a prominent role as himself in the movie, and I think does a really good job. Of course, playing yourself is probably easier than playing someone else, but it might also be harder. I've never been an actor who's asked to play myself. You might be like, that's not how I act, and everyone's like, that's exactly how you act, Kevin. Or read the script and be like, this is not what I would say. That's exactly what you would say, Kevin Garnett playing Kevin Garnett.
Adam Sandler's like, you got to get a crazier look in your eye.
Yeah,
like, wait, what are you talking about?
Kevin, I want you to act like a complete loony bin. That would be believable. He's like, no, I'm a level-headed guy.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, it might actually be way harder to play yourself in a movie because, first of all, you don't observe your own behavior. Everyone else does that. And then when you get that reflected back on you, you might not like what the script says about you.
Yeah.
Just like you think Kevin Garnett, I'm not spoiling anything, James, when I say part of that movie is like he becomes really enamored with a certain, like Adam Sandler's a jeweler, and Kevin Garnett becomes really enamored with a certain jewel, and he's like, gotta have it, right?
Yeah.
That's written into the script. You read that about yourself, you might just be like, what the heck? I would never get obsessed with a jewel. Why did you put this in the plot? And everyone's kind of looking at you like, that's exactly something you would do.
You like the ice, buddy.
That is very on brand for you, Kevin. You might not like it. Anyway, Kevin Garnett back in the Timberwolves front office. I generally like the way that Kevin Garnett is just like I would love to get Kevin Garnett and Kyle Whittingham to sit down for lunch together, just two guys who are just hardcore competitors. Garnett had that thing where he wouldn't let people take sloppy shots like after a whistle.
Oh, yeah, always block them.
He'd goaltend it or block it because he didn't want people getting a free bucket. He did that for like 20 years.
He was a maniac in the best way.
Yeah. I like that about Kevin Garnett. So I don't know how that translates in a front office. I really don't. That intensity might actually be counterproductive in a front office. But from a sort of public face perspective, this is good for the new owners. This is good for Kevin Garnett. And we congratulate him. Let's do some more of this with the Utah Jazz. Helps build goodwill in a community where, I mean, the fans are so forgiving here. But I don't know how much longer that's going to last if the team is not better in the next 2-3 years. Anyway, we have Brogan Houston coming on, Utah Mammoth insider, to talk a big win in Hockeytown, USA. They got a tough one over Detroit. We'll talk about the Mammoth next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. 4-1. Utah Mammoth beat the Detroit Red Wings last night. Tomorrow night it'll be the Devils, and then they've got a Sunday afternoon game against Winnipeg. This Utah Mammoth team, I think a much-needed result with a couple of points in Detroit. Brogan Houston, Utah Mammoth insider, kind enough to join us here on the Sean O'Connell Show, digest what we saw in the game last night. Brogan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for the team to get back here. I've been sitting on the couch watching all the games, and I'm ready to get to one in person for what seems like the first time in forever.
I know it's been, and I think that's part of why the results have been what they have been in this last little stretch. But how badly did they need this game last night? Obviously, they got it. How important was that win?
Yeah, well, on this 3-game road trip, a loss last night would have put them at a 33% point percentage, and instead they got a win, and that put them at a 67%. So that tells you right there, like this was a make it or break it game for that road trip to be a success, and I think they got exactly what they needed. 2 out of 3 is never too shabby, and now they can kind of, not relax, but they don't necessarily have to be scratching and clawing for every single bit of success that they have, the way that they would have had they lost those games and then fallen so far out of the playoffs that they would have fallen.
Even more important that you get these points right now because you're without one of your best players. Logan Cooley, it's going to be several weeks before we see him again, and you got to prove to yourselves and to the standings that it's not, a killer for you. I feel like they've done a decent job of that so far, but you had Gunther with another goal last night. He seems to be stepping up, rounding into kind of a midseason form. Clayton Keller, the captain, filled the stat sheet last night, which I thought was really important. He's had a rough month from many different angles. So give me your thoughts on how the team is adjusting minus Logan Cooley.
Yeah, in hockey a lot they talk about the next man up mentality, right? Like that if somebody goes down, okay, who's up to fill their spot? Like, somebody's got to kind of replace that offense or replace that defense or whatever the guy does. Excuse me. And Logan Cooley went down. He obviously provides a lot on both sides of the puck. And I think a lot of guys have kind of stepped into roles to replace that. Nick Schmaltz moved over to center, and he's done a pretty good job of that by my count. Daniil Boot got called up from the AHL, and although he hasn't, necessarily been the top scorer, he's kind of fit right in and allowed his line mates to do a lot. He's provided a boost to that second power play unit that has never been good for Utah until the last couple of games. And so I do think just a lot of guys have stepped up, have elevated what they can do. And with one man's injury comes another man's opportunity. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it has to go. But, Daniil Boot looks like an NHLer, and he wouldn't have gotten that opportunity without Logan Cooley going down. And so, I just think things are just going well for them right now. And we'll see if that continues.
I'm glad you brought up Daniil Boot because, look, so far so good for him. But if you go back to the beginning of the season and we were, 7, 8, 10 games in, I was saying the same things about Simashev, who ended up getting sent back down. In your mind, what is the key to making sure this success and this good impression that Daniil Boot is making right now is sustainable for him?
Yeah, I think with the Simashev one, it was probably more of a circumstance than it was him necessarily not playing as well as he needed to. There was just a CBA thing that kind of, made it so that it was a lot more expensive if the club kept him around, just that they would have had to pay for his housing and stuff. And so it was probably more of a contractual thing that he got sent down anyway. But these guys, no matter what, they're going to get as many opportunities as the club feels they need, because the club cannot afford for these guys to not become full-time NHLers and to become superstars. And so these guys will get every opportunity that they need to succeed, and it's up to them to kind of show that they are worth it to keep around and that they are NHL level players. And that comes over time. These guys are both 20 years old, so I don't know what you were doing when you were 20 years old, but I sure wasn't, proving myself as a pro athlete. And so these guys they're young, and as they grow up and experience all these new things, they'll get there.
Brogan Houston, Mammoth Insider over the Des News, is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. This is the 17th win of the season for the Utah Mammoth. They're now 17-16-3 with a big one over the Detroit Red Wings on the road last night, 4-1. Brogan, halfway through the third, and it's a zero. It's a goose egg on the scoreboard for the Red Wings. I was like, all right, Vemelka Veggie's going to get another shutout. His first one of the season came earlier and against the Ducks on the road, and I thought we were going to get another one just a couple of weeks later. Unfortunately, they end up letting one sneak through. I know it's not the end of the world. I know that all that anyone cares about is the win, but how close do you think they were to getting a real shutout in this one?
Yeah, it was a power play goal that the Red Wings snuck past Vemelka there, and if that penalty doesn't happen, I'm sure the goal doesn't happen either. And that was kind of the difference. But, in the grand scheme of things, it probably doesn't matter all that much, just that the team still gets the win. A 4-1 win is just the same as a 2-0 win. It all would have evened out. It all would have been the same. Obviously Veggie's numbers are just a little bit altered because of it, but he still walked away with, I believe it was a .964 save percentage, something like that. So he saved 96% of the shots that he faced. And that's as much as you can ask for a goalie realistically. Like every now and then they'll stop every single one, but if they can give your team a chance to win, then that's what's important. And last night he gave the team a chance to win. They scored enough to make that worth it, and they walked away with the win. And it hasn't always been that case. I wrote about it last night a little bit, that in the games where Utah has had a 900 save percentage or better, so saving 90% of the shots or better, they've won all but 3 of those games. And in the games where they've saved less than 90% of the shots, they've only won 3 of those games. And so if they can kind of get to that 90%, that 900, then that's the key to winning. That's the chance that Utah needs to. I talked about the goalies giving the team a chance, right? The goalies just need to save 90% of these shots, and the guys can score enough to get the win after that. And so I think goaltending is going to be a huge part of this team's success or failure this season.
So we talked about, the kind of grind of these road trips, and even the short home stints are kind of back-to-back, and a lot of activity before Christmas here for this team. Back at the Delta Center on home ice against, I think, a good Devils team, but you're not really ready to come up for air yet. What do they need to do to get points against this Devils team?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is a team that has kind of gone up and down. They were the best team in the league at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of tanked and they lost a whole bunch, and now they're kind of leveling out a little bit. And so, this is a young, skilled team, not a lot unlike Utah, except that they're just a few years ahead in their rebuild, if that makes sense. So they were getting their lottery picks in kind of 2018, 2019, 2020, that kind of range. They got Jack Hughes, they got Jesper Bratt, although he was a later pick. They got Nico Hischier and so on and so forth. Simon Nemec was another one. And so these guys, they are kind of what Utah projects to be in a couple of years. So these are still, it's a team of young, skilled, fast guys that can move the puck. They can score a lot of goals. Jack Hughes is injured right now, which is probably fortunate for the Mammoth, unfortunate for the Devils, but he's a superstar, and so that will make a difference. But it's certainly not a team that you can underestimate. Like you gotta go in there and expect to put in a full day's worth of work if you're gonna try and get the win.
How much attention do you pay to the business side of things in the NHL? I'm seeing the Penguins are about to be sold again. They were sold already to the Fenway Sports Group back in 2021. And now they're offloading what looks like a 100% profit here. It sounds like the Penguins are going to be sold for $1.7, $1.8 billion. And I think that the purchase price in 2021 was like $900 million. How much of that are you keeping an eye on?
Yeah, no, I do keep an eye on all that stuff, and I can't even believe that. Could you imagine putting any amount of investment in any amount of money into an investment and getting 100% return? Like, that's crazy. And then to do it with $1 billion and get $1 billion back in a couple of years.
Yeah, and to do it in
to all the revenue
4
that you made
years
from your NHL team.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and this is a good illustration of something we've talked about a lot on the show. Like, franchise values across all pro sports are skyrocketing. I mean, it makes sense to me in the NHL. It makes sense in the NBA. Obviously, the NFL is king. Like the WNBA is a growth market right now. But this is like the Pittsburgh Penguins are, that's like an OG franchise in the NHL. And for them to be doubling in value in a 4-year period in the mid 2020s, it feels like this is something that everyone in the NHL should be keeping their eye on.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it kind of is reflected in the way that the cap is going up as well. It's just that everybody's making more money. And that means that prices are higher for everybody. Prices are higher for fans that are going to the games. Prices are higher for, everything involved in going to a hockey game or watching a hockey game. And so it really, unfortunately, comes out of the pockets of the fans. But the players are enjoying life that much more because the salary cap has raised $20 million in the last couple of years here, and it's projected to raise another 10 or 15 million in the next 2 or 3 years here. So, things are going up, and I guess that's part of inflation too, right? But that's just kind of the world we live in. Even the housing market and everything, it's going up and up and up, and it's never going to stop as far as we can see. So, it's just the world we live in, I guess.
Well, that is one of the fascinating things about this Utah Mammoth franchise because, look, they got a nice little young core. There's a bunch of individuals now that are making, I think, market value, what they should make, and then there's going to be some contracts that come due in the next couple of years. And with those increasing salary cap numbers, it was not too long ago, and you know this better than I do, that a $10 million average annual value, like that was elite, superstar, rarefied air type talent. And it's still obviously the best players in the NHL are making in that neighborhood. But now there's 30, 40 guys in that world instead of 1 or 2. When we get some of these, really important young players in the next 3, 4, 5 years for the Mammoth, are we going to be talking about $15 million salaries?
Well, yeah, it certainly could go that way. But at the same time, like, Utah has really done a good job at locking up their young guys while they're still young. So Dylan Gunther last year, he signed at $7.1 million for an 8-year deal.
What a bargain that's going to be.
Dylan Gunther, he's leading the team in goals right now. I think he's got 16. We're about a third of the way through the season. We're approaching the halfway point of the season. But anyway, he's probably on pace for about 40 goals. And like you're saying, like $10 million is about a 40-goal scorer salary, but he's making two-thirds of that, a little more than two-thirds of that. And J.J. Peterka, same thing. He's I think it's about 7.8, somewhere around there for the next 5 years, including this one. Logan Cooley, now we have this, it's this $80 million contract, $10 million a year for the next 8 years. So, these young guys are already locked up, and that's a huge factor in Utah's success, that they will not have to go out and pay any of these guys $15 million a season. Now, that could change with guys like Boot and Simashev and Denoye and again, all these younger guys that won't even get to the NHL and won't even be ready for a contract until 3 or 4 years from now, when values are going to be a lot higher than they are even right now. And so maybe that does become a problem in the future, but they do look really set up for success at this point in time.
So, Brogan, we've been talking about kind of these last couple of weeks. Are these Mammoth players on pace from an individual standpoint and obviously from a team standpoint? Are they going to make the playoffs this year? If they make the playoffs, are they going to be on the bubble? Are they going to sneak in? Or is this a team that's going to look more like they did at the beginning of the season? Where do you stand on kind of like you said, just almost halfway through, where the ceiling is or where the realistic expectation is from a playoff perspective as we get to that point in the season in the next couple months?
Well, the Central Division, which is the one that Utah is in, is the most dangerous division in hockey right now. You've got Colorado, who's led the league basically the entire year. And then you've got Dallas, who's just barely behind them. And then you've got Minnesota, who just acquired the second best defenseman in the world. And, they were already 8 points ahead of Utah when they made that acquisition, and now they're just on a tear. They've hardly allowed a goal since they got Quinn Hughes, and they've just been outscoring their opponents by so many goals. And so those three spots, I think, at this point are probably pretty solidified unless something extreme happens. So I don't think that Utah is going to kind of sneak into one of those top three spots. So if Utah is going to get into the playoffs, the only way to do it is through those wild card spots, unless, again, they go on some crazy run that passes, Minnesota or one of those big teams up there. So through the wild card spot, you've got a lot more teams that you have to pass. You're not only battling the teams within your own division, you're also battling the teams in the Pacific Division. So that's teams like San Jose right now. Chicago's doing pretty well right around there. You've got, a few more St. Louis and a bunch of other teams are right around that playoff spot. And so you've got a lot of jumping to do. And that makes all of these games become 4-point games when you play a team like Winnipeg, when you play a team like Chicago, teams that they play a lot in these coming months here. These become extra valuable and extra important to get the win in those games so that you not only get yourself points, but you also restrict the other teams from getting those points that would beat you in the playoffs. And so to answer your question, I think, if they do get in, they're not going to get in by a lot. But it'll kind of be like last year, I'm sure, where they'll be playing meaningful games in March and April, and we'll see, whether they have produced enough to get in or whether they just barely missed like they did last year.
Brogan, always appreciate your time and your perspective on this Mammoth team. Enjoy a little homestand.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's Brogan Houston from the Des News, member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Mammoth insider with some interesting thoughts on a team that, that was an important win last night in Detroit because the grind seemed like it's been kind of getting to this Mammoth team. And we talked about that earlier in the week with Adrian Denny. We talked about the demand. That's what their 37th game, or my math is bad. I think 37th game before Christmas. And, you got the Olympic break coming and all that stuff. But it is tough for this young team that is on a little bit of a roller coaster with injuries now, with everything that happened with Clayton Keller's dad. Your captain is now a little bit, out of his normal headspace. You got to get these results, and on the road against a good Detroit team is a confidence builder for sure. Now you've got a Devils team coming into the Delta Center that is a very similar record, some similarities from a style and build standpoint of a team that you just walloped 4-1. So hopefully you can build a little streak on home ice and push a little bit further into that playoff conversation for the Utah Mammoth. Sean O'Connell Show down here today and tomorrow, by the way, at the Road Home Mediathon, 801-819-7300, roadhome.org, and at the Road Home on Venmo and PayPal for your donations. They're also taking underwear, bottles, sippy cups, towels, boots, gloves, hats, diapers, especially size 5 and 6. 529 West, 9th Avenue in Midvale. It is a team effort. Every station in the business is out here. The competition will be here later and tomorrow and all that type of stuff. We'll have a little trash talk. We'll have a little bit of fun. But most importantly, we are trying to contribute to a very, very good cause as the Road Home tries to get families back on their feet and out of homelessness situations. All right, a little update on what's going on in the WNBA and a re-examination of Kyle Whittingham for the first time after he announced he was done at the University of Utah. He joined Scott Mitchell. That sound is available for you at ESPN700sports.com. Also, we've got a bunch of classic games. The great games of the Kyle Whittingham era are available in the archives for you to listen to on ESPN700sports.com. Over the Christmas break, we're going to be playing some of those for you instead of doing our live shows while James enjoys some time with the family. I enjoy some time with the family, Spence and Porter, etc. So that's going to be fun coming up and walking down memory lane. Available right now on the website. Go check it out, ESPN700sports.com. And also, I want to know, another media availability is coming up today, like a scrum with the Big J journalists. What question do you need to hear them ask Kyle Whittingham? Text it to me, 877-353-0700. Tweet it at me at RealOCSports. 28 minutes left of the Sean O'Connell Show. Don't go anywhere. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Look, I know there's been a lot of things going on in the sports world, and that means maybe you haven't been all the way dialed in on everything related to the WNBA contract negotiations. We have touched on it a couple of times. There have been big increases that have already been rejected and already been denied. Like 4x increases denied by the WNBA and the Players Association. Right now, you're looking at a situation where the top player salary is around $250,000. They wanted to push that up over $1 million, and the players said, no, we're not looking for that kind of guarantee. We want to have our pay increase with the growth of the league, because a lot of people and the sports markets and the futures and the franchise values indicate there's very good reason to be bullish right now on WNBA value. So they've reached an impasse, and this announcement was just put out. The Players Union has authorized the WNBPA, the executive committee, to call a strike if and when necessary. So they haven't called a strike yet, but this is the final step before you actually do. The next thing will be to call a strike. And the quote is, the players' decision is an unavoidable response to the state of negotiations with the WNBA and its teams. So you might be getting a labor stoppage, a strike in WNBA basketball. James, this feels like a mistake to me. I mean, obviously I haven't paid as close of attention, and I'm not like a labor attorney or anything like that. But the WNBA is having its moment. Women's basketball at the collegiate and pro levels, they've been having kind of this extended 2-year moment, and this feels like it could be really, really counterproductive to that. I don't know how much good grace, I don't know how much cachet and leeway that you have built up with a fan base that is in a lot of ways largely new for you.
Yeah, they obviously feel like they have leverage over the league, which is a interesting thing, because I can't remember when any players union in recent memory of any, professional sports league has, in the United States at the very least, or North America, that has actually had any meaningful leverage over their league, over their owners and things like that. I'm not sure that I can remember anything like that. The players in MLB, they did strike in '94, right? So they felt like they had leverage then, but I was barely alive at that time, OC. So in my lifetime, practically, we've had lockouts where the owners have exercised their significant leverage. I have not seen a strike in a major professional league, and I know there's those out there say WNBA is not one of the major leagues. It's coming up to be one of those. Yeah, I'm with you though. It feels like it would be a huge momentum, like the momentum that they've been building up. It would seem to just grind to a screeching halt. But maybe they're just like, hey, we're not making, maybe these players are like, we're not making much from our salaries anyway, so we can afford to strike. Like a lot of these other leagues that do not go this far, even threaten a strike, are like, we can't afford to stop playing. Maybe the players feel like we can afford to stop playing because a lot of us do really well with endorsements, and that pays our bills and not our salaries anyway. But that's not everybody, so I don't know.
That's like 10 women in the league. And actually, It's really, when you look at the highest paid female athletes, Forbes just put out their list of highest paid female athletes, and it's like a bunch of tennis players, a couple of golfers, and now finally WNBA players, because of endorsements, not because of salary.
Yeah.
But now they're making their appearance in that top 10, top 25 range. But it's a handful of the players. I mean, and it's the names that you know. If you ask an average sports fan, give me 5 WNBA players. People can do that now. If you say, give me 10, some people are going to be able to do that. If you say, give me 50 of them, nobody can do that unless you're a hardcore WNBA fan. And you can do that for the NBA for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And those guys can afford a labor stoppage because that we're talking about, even the league minimum in the NBA being now like $1 million. It's not that way in the WNBA. If there is a prolonged strike, it feels like this ends up hurting not only the league's sort of reputation, but the rank and file player. I don't know how many of them can actually physically afford it. But they said it's unavoidable. They know much better than we do, so we'll watch how it plays out.
Yeah, the other thing that maybe comes into play with this as to why they might be willing to do this as a players' association is the creation of the Unrivaled League. And that's only 3-on-3, so it's not like everyone in the WNBA can play on that in that league, but a lot of those players can play domestically there in the spring and make good money in the Unrivaled League. The other thing is maybe this means that a lot of them are like, hey, we didn't want to go back overseas, certainly not to Russia after the Brittany Griner fiasco, but we can still make money overseas. We don't necessarily have to go to Russia to make our money. So maybe that's also playing into their thoughts of hey, we can strike. Not a big deal. I don't know that they're really taking into account what you and I are talking about, though, that, hey, what about the momentum you're building up now for the first time? What you just want to have that stop? I don't know if that's worth it.
Think of how often, even with the baseball labor stoppages, America's pastime was damaged by strike, and that was a league with 80, 100 years of fandom, of hardcore fandom of people that grew up on games, right? And even that turned people off. We're talking about much, much bigger leagues with far longer established relationships with their fan bases that have been damaged by labor stoppages, by strikes. This feels like it could be disastrous for the WNBA. I want the women to maximize the value. I want them to get as much money as they deserve. I want their revenue growth opportunities to reflect that of the owners. What we have seen from the offers so far, our limited understanding was that they were offered that, but that maybe it wasn't adequate. So I guess keep an eye on it. We are 15 minutes away from the end of the show. We are 30 minutes away from Kyle Whittingham post-practice media availability at the University of Utah. This is the first scrum, to use the colloquialism, that he's going to host since stepping down as the head coach at the University of Utah. The question I need someone to ask, all right, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk with him yet. Scott Mitchell did. That sound is available at ESPN700sports.com. Scott did an amazing job with the interview. He set it up himself directly with Kyle. Maybe there was some agreement made beforehand. Hey, don't ask me one thing in particular. I have no idea. I'm not trying to imply. But I need someone to ask Kyle Whittingham, how did you come to the decision that now was the right time? Give me the details. And, yes, that gives him space to defer to, take the high road if he needs to, or to say, it was all about me. My wife wants me to be done, whatever the answer truly is. But there's been so much smoke around the potential fire that, there was an encouragement. There was a nudge. There was a, hey, let's not do this whole thing again, Kyle, where we're waiting a full year and wondering if this is your last year. I just would like for him to elucidate and tell us, step by step, how he came to the decision that now is the right time to step down. We got already the answer on, hey, what does the future hold? Now that you have stepped down, what do you think is next? And his answer was, I think, a pretty honest, I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes after the bowl game. I want someone to ask him, how did you come to this decision? Who helped you come to this decision? What were the conversations like? We all want to know. I hope we get those answers. We're at the road home today, which means I cannot make it physically, cannot make it all the way up to post-practice media availability in time to engage in the questioning, or I would ask the question myself. But it's a good cause down here at the road home. They're doing a coat drive that includes underwear, towels, boots, coats, hats, diapers, lotion, useful household and hygiene items. We'll be here all day tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in Midvale at 529 West 9th Avenue, the Crosby Family Resource Center is where a lot of the road home's needs are met, and you can help meet those needs as they take care of, right now, over 1,100 people in the shelter. 199 children in the shelter. If that doesn't motivate you to give, I understand. Maybe you can't this year. Do it next year instead, but that's the only number I need to see. 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, Venmo or PayPal at @theroadhome. We'll give away a Big Willie's gift card next with a trivia question on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. One last segment on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Down here at the Road Home, Venmo at the Road Home. Go to theroadhome.org for a donation, 801-819-7300. Or if you don't have the cash this holiday season, that's fine. Maybe you have the cash and you also want to contribute useful items like shampoo, conditioner, body wash, lotion, diapers, hats, gloves, boots, coats, towels, bottles and sippy cups, underwear, all of it. They need the items. They need the money. They are helping members of this community get back on their feet. The numbers, this is last night, okay? People at the shelter, 1,124. Families, that's 110 families. That's 199 children in the shelter. 140 single women being taken care of by the efforts of the Road Home. And the homeless resource centers actually serve far more individuals than just that. That's just the actual shelter. The homeless resource centers served 5,317 people, 498 families, 954 children in those families. I mean, the numbers are what they are, but what this is need that is being met by the great people at the Road Home. And they need our help in order to make sure that they have the funding for it, that they have the resources for it. So please donate if you can. 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or you can Venmo or PayPal directly at the Road Home. All right, on the show today we talked about Kevin Garnett being invited back into the fold by the Minnesota Timberwolves and the incredible accolades that he was able to accumulate over the course of his career. How many all-star appearances did Kevin Garnett make for the Minnesota Timberwolves in a Timberwolves uniform? Only his Timberwolves years, please. How many times was Kevin Garnett a Minnesota Timberwolves all-star? 877-353-0700. If you can give us that answer, we'll give you a gift card to Big Willie's. They provided the hot lunch for us today while we're down here at the Road Home. The hot lunch today, by the way, is a patty melt with onion rings. Oh, mama. The way that they make their burger patties, I actually need to talk to Patrick about it. I don't know what the secret ingredient is. I don't know why. They are somehow perfectly, every single time, perfectly grilled to where I like them a little bit pink and so juicy with the right amount of salt. Not ever too salty, not ever too greasy. Big Willie's just has it done the right way, and they put it on a nice couple slices of bread. The onion rings are perfectly crispy every single time, and the fry sauce is an excellent mix. So that's today's special for $13. Patty melt with onion rings and fry sauce. If you know how many times Kevin Garnett was named an all-star while in a Timberwolves uniform, you can text us at 877-353-0700, and we will hook you up. I'm trying to figure out how I can jet out of here fast enough to get up to the Kyle Whittingham post-practice media availability. It's such an interesting place for the program to be in right now because Morgan is the officially named next head coach. The current head coach, Kyle Whittingham, has said, well, I'm going to stay for this game. We're going to do this one more time. He joined Scott Mitchell on his show this morning and had some really interesting things to say about why he got into coaching in the first place and, his plans in the future, which are right now up in the air. But one thing he did not say was, I plan on being retired. He did not say, I plan on hanging out with my grandkids and skiing and golfing. So I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll get some more clarity as we hear from the post-practice media availability. I can promise you this. We will find ways to get you those answers and sound sooner than later here on the Sean O'Connor Show. One last push, people. Down here at the Road Home. We'll be down here again tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you have any extra errand runs you're going to make, right? You want to go to Walmart, you want to go to Target, you're headed out to Smith's Marketplace. If you're going to Ross, if you're going to TJ Maxx to do some Christmas shopping, throw an extra couple of towels in the cart. Grab an extra coat. Grab another pair of boots. Find a pack of diapers size 5 or 6 and donate them at the Road Home, 529 West 9th Avenue in Midvale. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. today and tomorrow. The Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers have been helping out to raise the much-needed goods for these families now for several weeks. They'll be bringing the convoy of trucks with all the coats and hats and gloves in them. It's a great moment to see and witness and be a part of every single year that we help out down here at the Road Home. And if you just want to donate cash, that is also welcome. 801-819-7300, theroadhome.org, or on Venmo and PayPal at The Road Home.
And OC, going back to Scott's interview with Kyle Whittingham, one of the other things he asked him about, which I thought was interesting, was he asked Coach what his favorite games were over his time, and Whit gave some pretty good answers. Obviously, he said, well, you got to start with the Sugar Bowl. And then he mentioned the TCU game from that same season, the blackout game. We have that one on our list of Kyle Whittingham's best games on the website, ESPN700sports.com. Do you have a favorite game of the Whit era, OC?
My favorite game of the Whit era was, selfishly, the game I got to call alongside the late, great Steve Klauke. Bill Riley had some Duke basketball duties. Duke and Utah were playing against one another at Madison Square Garden. You remember this a few years ago?
Yeah.
And so BYU was playing Utah in the Vegas Bowl. And I was lucky enough, because of the change in play-by-play guy, they decided to have, I think Frank Dolce was up to something. It was before Scott Mitchell was the color analyst. I got to call the Vegas Bowl between Utah and BYU alongside Steve Klauke. It's one of my favorite memories of my broadcasting career, and of course the head coach for that game, which was a really crazy Utah win, where they just, the first half, the first quarter, they jumped out to like a 28-0 lead, and then Tanner Mangum tried to battle BYU back and made it a game later. But it was just a strange game, but still one of the best memories of my career. And Kyle Whittingham was the head coach of that team, so that was my favorite Utah game.
Yeah, that was also a very good one. That's one of the first. That's one of the first rivalry games, probably the rivalry game in the independence era of BYU that I felt like had a ton of juice, because it's the first time they'd ever met in the postseason. And I know for Utah's side of things, that was the year that they thought, hey, we're on our way to the playoff. They beat Oregon by 62-14 or whatever it was at Autzen Stadium that year. Game day was on campus for the first time in a long time. Earlier that year, they got off to such a hot start, and then they faltered down the stretch. So it kind of felt, I know that for Utah fans, Vegas Bowl felt like, man, we thought we'd be a much bigger place than this. But for me, I felt like that one had a lot of juice to it, because it was the first postseason matchup between these two teams, and it turned out to be a heck of a game.
Yeah, it was awesome. We're wrapping things up here on the Sean O'Connell Show. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next down here at the Road Home Mediathon. Spencer Checketts, the Spence Checketts, is here in front of me right now.
The one and only?
That's probably more than one.
No, there actually is one other. He's a doctor, so I blew it. I don't know where he lives, but occasionally I'll get an email like, hey, Dr. Checketts, found your email. Haven't been able to get a hold of you. I'm like, wrong Spencer. I think there are two Spencer Checketts in the world.
What specialty is this person in?
I don't know. I've never looked into it.
Probably an otolaryngologist.
That's what I was going to say. What is that? I don't know what that is.
Ear, nose, and throat man?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Have you ever done any research on how many Sean O'Connells there are in the world?
There's so many.
There's a lot.
It's that's being in Ireland, that's being named John Smith.
I guess that's a good point.
There's so many.
Are most of them over across the pond, though?
I think probably most of them are.
Do they have the same palate for baklava shakes that you do?
Probably so.
It's our only running joke on our crosstalk.
Yeah. If you Google Sean O'Connell, the first one that comes up is a very famous film critic.
Oh.
And every once in a while, people will tweet at tweet me something that they intended for him, obviously.
Why didn't you like Pulp Fiction?
I really didn't. It's funny that you bring that one up.
Oh, man. Well, this is it's one of my favorite things we get to do.
Yeah, it's great.
All year long, and I heard you talking about this earlier. There's so many places where hey, I started a nonprofit, donate. And you're like, why are you in Cabo every week? When are you actually working on your nonprofit? One of the things I've always liked about the Road Home is if you're looking for a place to donate money and you know it's going to go where it's supposed to go, like this is the spot. They do really good work.
They really do. And they will be raising money to help these Utah families. Thousands of people are put back on their feet by the Road Home every single year, and we need your help to make sure they have the resources to allow that to happen. So today and tomorrow, we're down here broadcasting our shows. They're doing the drive for the underwear, the bottles, the towels, the coats, all that stuff. TheRoadHome.org, at The Road Home on Venmo and PayPal, and 801-819-7300. I'm going to turn it over to you, Spence.
Okay, Sean. Good job today. I was out and about quite a bit listening to a good majority of the show, so well done as always.
It's festive down here. Reach into your cold, dark hearts and donate to
Gosh.
The Road Home.
Sean's in the holiday spirit. Look at this. The cold, dark hearts. Bah humbug. We'll try to keep it going coming up next.
Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.